Chapter 1833. Young Master Chen, you haven't lost yet. How can you admit defeat? You haven't lost yet. Young Master Chen, you haven't lost yet. Use the Nirvana flame to burn him to ashes. That's right. Young Master Chen, use the Nirvana flame quickly. That shameless scum, didn't he say that he would defeat you by 2 realms? Use the Nirvana flame to teach him a lesson. Let's see if he dares to be so arrogant in the future. All of them were women who adored Chen Burang. They couldn't bear to see Chen Burang lose, and they couldn't accept this result. Many people's hearts skipped a beat when they heard this. Yeah, Chen Burang still has the Nirvana flame. Why didn't he use it and admit defeat? Idiot! Long Xiaojun glanced at these people and sneered in his heart. Even Chu Yang could catch the Nirvana flame with his bare hands. How could a mere Nirvana flame do anything to him? Of course, Long Xiaojun didn't explain. Chu Yang didn't explain either. Since you have lost, this is it. Disperse. He wasn't very proud. After all, he had this ability. He just wanted to hide it. In the world of the gods, ever since he entered that strange world with the initial volcano, he had thoroughly understood what it meant by there is always someone better than you. Unknowingly, he had changed quite a bit. Chen Burang was stunned. How could shameless Chu let him go so easily? What else do you want me to do? Humiliate you or beat you to death? Chu Yang wanted to kill Chen Burang, but Shangguan Lan would never allow it. Not only Chen Burang, but many people present were very surprised by Chu Yang's actions. Chu Yang had always been ruthless to his opponents. He wouldn't leave any leeway for his opponent. Chu Heng, this divine bird feels very strange to you. I'm not used to it. The parrot was also very surprised. It continued, Chu Heng, have you taken the wrong medicine recently? Lu Yunping, Xiao Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang couldn't help but nod their heads. If Chu Yang had treated them like this before, they definitely wouldn't have been Chu Yang's slaves. Therefore, they were very dissatisfied with Chu Yang's sudden soft-heartedness. I've said it before. The world is too dangerous. I'm starting to keep a low profile. Chu Yang passionately said, from today onwards I will be a low-key person. I will chop wood and feed the horses. I have a house that faces the sea, where the flowers bloom in spring. Fuck! The parrot was even more puzzled. Chu Heng's shamelessness hadn't changed, and his overflowing talent hadn't changed either. However, everything else seemed to have changed. Could it be that this divine bird has really fallen behind and can't keep up with Chu Heng's rhythm? It began to doubt itself. People couldn't accept Chu Yang's low profile. Shameless Chu, are you really that low profile? Chu Yang returned to the parrot's side. Many people felt that the show had ended too quickly. They hadn't enjoyed themselves to the fullest. In fact, they felt as if something was missing. But then, they realized that this matter hadn't been blown out of proportion yet. In the past, according to Shameless Chu's style, it had to be a big matter. However, this time, he was being magnanimous and ended things hastily. However, no matter how puzzled people were, there would definitely be no change in the matter. Gradually, people's focus shifted back to the 6 Academies Alliance tournament. The atmosphere became lively again, and people continued to talk about it. At the same time, more and more people arrived from behind. When Shangguan Lan arrived with Shangguan Mei and Hong Niao, it immediately caused a sensation. Chu Yang was secretly amazed by Shangguan Lan's charm. Ji Yiming's arrival was the same, and it also caused a sensation. Chapter 1834. Chu Yang was depressed, but he couldn't do anything about it. He could only say that he was loved by thousands of beauties. Of course, he was also amazed by the scale of this joint competition. There were already so many people in the Sky Academy alone. It was impossible to tell how many people there were. If all the 6 academies were added together, it would be even more unimaginable. After that, the little Zen master Fa Zhao, Mu Zizhen, and the others all arrived. The scene became even more lively, but they didn't see any holy disciples for a long time, so the crowd began to talk about them. Why aren't the holy disciples of the Academy here yet? Maybe they're not with us, or they've already gone to the Zhongtian mountain range. It's hard to say. Holy disciples are holy disciples after all. They're different from us. While the discussion was at its peak, a figure streaked across the night sky from the direction of the Sky Academy like a shooting star and finally landed right above the crowd. This person was wearing a starry robe that was decorated with some unknown objects. They sparkled like stars in the night sky, and starlight shone from his body. When he arrived, people could clearly see that there were strands of starlight shining down from the sky and landing on him, making him stand out from the crowd. He looked extremely different, as if he was a celestial being who had descended to the mortal world. Other than that, this person didn't show any strange colors. His aura was also extremely restrained, as if he didn't have any cultivation. However, his appearance instantly caused a commotion in the crowd. 7-Star Child. It's the 7-Star Child. I've been waiting for so long and finally a holy disciple has come. He's no ordinary holy disciple. I've heard that the 7-Star Academy has tried to recruit him several times, but for some reason, the 7-Star Academy has refused to go to the Star Academy. I don't understand either. If the 7-Star Child goes to the Star Academy, he'll definitely be the focus of their training, especially after Beiqianxing was killed by the Eastern Wilderness 002. Who knows the secret? The 7-Star Child's considerations aren't something we can understand. 7 stars. Chu Yang naturally paid close attention to 7-Star Child, so when 7-Star Child arrived, he couldn't help but observe him and immediately felt an extraordinary aura. That wasn't the aura of death, nor was it the aura of life. Instead, it was more like a kind of spiritual power. The most profound feeling he had was the difference between heaven and man. Chu Yang was still a mortal, but 7-Star Child had already transcended the mortal realm and ascended to a whole new life realm. Half-saint. Soon, Chu Yang understood. 7-Star Child's aura was clearly that of a half-saint. He was already one step into the ranks of saints. Is a saint already so amazing? For a moment, Chu Yang's heart sank. How could he compete with the holy disciples if they were so amazing? How much time and effort would it take to change the discrimination against the people of the Eastern Wilderness in the East Continent? Chu Yang realized that he had underestimated the people of the world. Even though he had made great progress after returning from the God's realm, it was still far from enough. Do I have to become a saint to suppress the East Continent? Chu Yang was slightly frustrated, and the heroic spirit in his heart almost disappeared. After all, 7-Star Child was only a holy disciple in the Sky Academy, and 7-Star Child wasn't the only holy disciple in the Sky Academy. The other 5 academies all had holy disciples, and a rough calculation showed that there were definitely many holy disciples, and he couldn't compete with any of them. Chapter 1835. The more he thought about it, the more serious his face became. Bei Xingchen had been killed by him, and in addition to Bei Xingchen, there was also Li Zongxing. The Star Do Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy would probably come looking for trouble with him during this competition. After all, he was the most likely suspect. Perhaps he was the Eastern Wilderness 002. The 6 Academies Alliance tournament this time might just be a nuisance to me. It'll be even more difficult for me to make a name for myself. I'm afraid the people of the East Continent will have even less hope. Chu Yang naturally didn't regret killing Beiqianxing and Li Zongxing, especially that bastard Beiqianxing. He wasn't afraid of the Star Do Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy's revenge either. It was just that it would be difficult to achieve his goal. If worse comes to worst, I'll turn the world upside down. Chu Yang had just made up his mind when he suddenly heard the sound of wind exploding from afar. When he looked over, he was surprised to see a purple streak of light rapidly approaching. The person hadn't arrived yet, but the essence energy in the world was already surging. To be more precise, it was surging with excitement as if it was welcoming the person who was about to arrive. Immediately, everyone was sucked in. The purple streak of light streaked through the air at an even faster speed. When the purple streak of light got closer, everyone was shocked to discover that the so-called purple streak of light was actually a dragon. A dragon that was completely purple in color. The purple dragon streaked through the air and arrived in the blink of an eye. It didn't need to cause such a huge commotion, but this dragon created such a huge commotion as if it was announcing the arrival of its master. A purple-robed young man stood on top of the purple dragon's enormous head with his hands clasped behind his back. He had a handsome face and seemed a little unruly and carefree. His devilish aura made him seem even more unrestrained. At first glance, one could tell that he was definitely not ordinary. After the purple-robed young man arrived, his gaze swept across the crowd. He glanced at the seven-star child in the end before immediately looking away. It was as if there was nothing worthy of his attention or concern, not even the seven-star child. However, the crowd reacted to his arrival, and the commotion and exclamations that erupted were even more intense than when the seven-star child had arrived. Long Shensi, even Long Shensi has appeared. Long Shensi has always been elusive. It's really not easy to see him. I didn't expect to see him this time. Although Long Shensi's ranking is not high among the holy disciples, his true strength is extremely terrifying. Isn't that obvious? Just look at that purple dragon and you'll understand. Even that purple dragon has the cultivation base of life and death realm and life realm. Dragon deity is even more unimaginable. Chu Yang's pupils involuntarily shrunk as he looked at Long Shensi, who was hovering in midair. When he first entered the inner academy, he did not see Long Shensi's name on the sky ranking. However, he never expected that Long Shensi was also a semi-sage. Moreover, his aura was even more shocking than the seven-star child's. Only now do I know what crouching tigers and hidden dragons means? Chu Yang could not help but laugh bitterly in his heart. It was not that he was inferior to Long Shensi and the seven-star child, but his cultivation base was too low. If he increased his cultivation base, Long Shensi and the seven-star child would probably be at the same level. Unfortunately, his current cultivation base was still too low. As time passed, many holy disciples arrived. However, they were not as mysterious as Long Shensi and the seven-star child. They were all hidden in the fog, and no one knew their identities. Some holy disciples had yet to show up. After an unknown period of time, the crowd was once again in an uproar. The Holy Master is here. The Holy Master actually came in person. I didn't expect that the Holy Master would personally lead the team this year. The crowd was very excited to see the Holy Master and several senior members of the Sky Academy coming in person. However, Chu Yang had to be more careful when he saw the Holy Master coming from afar. He could not help but feel uneasy. Chapter 1836. Everyone, please be quiet. The Sage Master was dressed in a scholarly robe and still looked like a modest gentleman, cultured and refined. He stroked his beard and lightly pressed down with his hand. The noisy crowd couldn't help but immediately quiet down, and their gazes couldn't help but all look towards him. There are some changes to the rules of the 6 Academies Alliance competition this time. Let me explain it to everyone. The Sage Master went straight to the point. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd, which had just calmed down, instantly burst into an uproar. What? They actually want to change the rules before the start of the competition? Could it be that something big has happened? It's a little unusual. I keep feeling that something is wrong. It's indeed a little strange. Everything in the 6 Academies Alliance competition is jointly discussed by the 6 Academies. It's impossible for it to change just like that. Chu Yang's uneasy feeling became even stronger. The black-bellied him immediately thought of all kinds of schemes. He even suspected that everything was changed because of him. Could it be that the 6 academies have reached an agreement to jointly target me in this 6 academies alliance competition? This thought became even stronger. If the 6 academies suspected that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, the 6 academies might really target him based on what he had done in the 7 Wheels Demon region. Is it true or not? Chu Yang couldn't help but frown and worry. Whether it is or not, I have to be mentally prepared for the worst. At this stage, everything was his guess. For the time being, he could only wait and see. Everyone, listen to me first. The Sage Master spoke again, making everyone quiet down again. Then, he continued, the change in the rules this time takes into consideration that the difference in strength between the holy disciples and the inner courtyard disciples is too great. It's not appropriate to put the two at the same level for the assessment. Hearing this, the people became even quieter. They could accept this very much. If they were to compete with holy disciples like the 7 Stars Child and the Long Shensi, it would be a great misfortune for them. Therefore, this time, the 6 academies will be divided into 2 parts. The holy disciples will be part of the assessment, and the other part will be for the majority of the students. There will be some changes in the rules. After a pause, the Sage Sovereign continued, most of you don't need to know about the Holy Disciples test, so I won't explain it further. Next, I will talk about the changes in the rules of the Inner Courtyard and the Elite Students test. Everyone immediately listened attentively. Chu Yang was also very concerned about the so-called rule change. It's actually very simple. The Sage Master did not beat around the bush. The Inner Courtyard and the Elite Courtyard students will receive a points token in this assessment. The basic points are 1,000. You can accumulate points during the process of heading to the martial arts practice field set up by the 6 academies United Grand Competition. It's more or less the same as the previous assessments. Boom! As soon as the Sage Master finished speaking, the crowd went into an uproar again. In that case, although there is no threat from the saints, won't we have to compete and kill each other? It's better not to make any changes. The holy disciples usually don't take us seriously. With such a change, won't the difficulty of the assessment increase? The Zhongtian mountain range itself is full of danger. In addition to the demonic beasts and other martial artists who don't belong to the 6 academies, the students of the 6 academies will also become opponents. Chapter 1837. Amidst the chaos, some agitated students immediately shouted, "If I withdraw, I will most likely die. What good is this competition to me? I'm also withdrawing. I'm just here to join in the fun. I don't want to lose my life for nothing. That's right. There's no benefit, only danger. I'm also withdrawing from such a competition." In an instant, many students withdrew from the competition. Most of them were from the Inner Courtyard. Their strength was low, and such a competition rule was tantamount to making them the prey of the 6 great academies. They would be humiliated for no reason, and they might even be killed if they were not careful. Who would be willing to do that without any hope? Chu Yang was also relieved. If he was not strong enough, he would definitely withdraw. Such a rule encouraged students to compete with each other. In the competition, those who were weak were simply too pitiful. Seems like I'm overthinking. Just as this thought appeared, the Sage Master chuckled and said, "Everyone, don't be anxious. This is only a partial change. There are other changes that I haven't mentioned yet. First, in the competition, although you can snatch the points of your opponents, you can't kill them. Those who kill their opponents will have to pay with their lives. The joint inspection team of the 6 great academies will definitely not tolerate it." Such a rule instantly silenced everyone's protests. Also, the Sage Master continued, "Inner Courtyard students, or elite students, in this competition, the top 3 will each receive a Clone Divine Fruit." Clone Divine Fruit. This time, the crowd was in an uproar. It was many times more intense than the previous few times. This was because they were all shocked by the Sagemaster's words. After hearing it, they could not believe it. The cloned divine fruit was actually rewarded. Many people did not know the exact origin of the cloned divine fruit, nor did they know where to find it or how to obtain it. However, they knew exactly what the cloned divine fruit was used for. As the name implied, the cloned divine fruit was a clone. After eating it, it would produce a clone of oneself. Its effects were heaven-defying and unimaginable. For the majority of the students, they had only heard of such a divine item. It was impossible for them to obtain it. Even geniuses would find it difficult to obtain such a divine fruit, let alone them. The most irresistible thing about the doppelganger divine fruit was that even after creating a doppelganger, one's divine soul would not be severed. Therefore, one's divine soul would not be weakened, and it would not affect one's cultivation in the future. It was just an extra doppelganger. As a result, how could they not be shocked? Many of their eyes began to shine after hearing about the divine fruit of cloning. They were clearly daydreaming. Sacred teacher, are you telling the truth? When someone asked the sacred sovereign, the entire place immediately became quiet. Everyone was waiting for the sacred sovereign's answer. The sage master stroked his beard and smiled. Of course. Do you think I would use this to deceive everyone? The crowd was in an uproar again. Many people were so excited that they started shouting. Wealth comes from danger. No matter what, I have to participate in the 6 Academy's grand competition, the divine fruit of cloning. The Academy has already taken out such a divine item. What reason do you have not to participate? The assessment and the competition are indeed dangerous. However, if you do not go through hardships, how can you obtain the recognition of the Academy? How can you obtain the divine fruit of cloning? This is prepared for those who are ambitious. Chapter 1838. Of course, this is only for the inner courtyard and elite students. The holy disciple's reward is a saint embryo born from heaven and earth. A saint embryo. When Chu Yang heard this, he couldn't hear anything else. His mind was blown. A saint embryo. It was hard to imagine that the holy disciple's reward for the holy disciple's grand competition was a saint embryo. A saint embryo was similar to the doppelganger divine fruit, but a saint embryo was not something the doppelganger divine fruit could compare to. The so-called saint child was actually very simple. The heavens were the father, the earth was the mother, and it was a powerful and special life that was born from them. They were either born from strange stones, jade, wood, divine water, fire, or metal essence. For example, the 9 orifices stone man, 7 orifices jade man, green dragon wood man, Tai water man, and so on. Once they were born, not only were they very powerful, but they also had unlimited potential. A saint embryo would be a saint once it was born. It was equivalent to bestowing a saint, and this saint was one's doppelganger. Such a reward was too shocking. It was simply inconceivable. It wasn't just Chu Yang who was like this. After the saint sovereign spoke, everyone was suddenly stunned, causing the entire place to become deathly silent. There wasn't a single sound. Even Long Shensi and 7-Star Child were stunned when they heard this. Roar. The purple dragon seemed to have sensed Long Shensi's thoughts and suddenly let out a long roar. The dragon's roar immediately reverberated through the surroundings. 7-Star Child's starlight suddenly became dazzling and even dimmed as if night had fallen. In the void behind him, there were specks of stars twinkling. The two of them had revealed their inner hearts in an invisible manner. They were determined to obtain the saint-level sacred fetus. The rest of the holy disciples also found it hard to calm down. How could they not want a saint-level holy embryo? Those who didn't want it were probably fools. Seeing this scene, Chu Yang could already foresee that the competition between the holy disciples of the 6 great academies would be extremely fierce. He was also tempted by a saint embryo. If he obtained a saint embryo, he would have a powerful saint doppelganger. It would be just a matter of time before he suppressed the East continent. Unfortunately, it's only limited to holy disciples. Chu Yang's greed flared up again. When he realized this, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. Not to mention a saint-level holy fetus, even the divine doppelganger fruit would have to be fought to the death. In fact, Chu Yang could create 2 clones at this moment. In the myriad god world, among his 100 grotto heavens, the first 2 grotto heavens had already evolved into godheads. However, he felt that the godheads were not complete enough. At the very least, they did not integrate the aura of the heavenly spirit world into them. Therefore, this flaw was too big. After all, he would be staying in the heavenly spirit realm in the future. His avatar in the gods' realm would be so obvious that he would be criticized by others. He might even be suspected of being a spy from the gods' realm. I have to find a way to get the doppelganger divine fruit. Although the doppelganger created by the doppelganger divine fruit couldn't be compared to his own doppelganger, it could still increase his strength. Most importantly, the doppelganger divine fruit didn't cost much to create a doppelganger. At this time, the Sage Master spoke again. All of you, quiet down. I haven't finished yet. The inner courtyard and elite courtyard students have a chance to obtain the reward of a holy disciple. As long as you have the courage to compete with a holy disciple and win in the end, you will also receive the same reward. The crowd was in an uproar again, but it quickly calmed down. Competing with a holy disciple? Wasn't that a joke? If they could compete with a holy disciple, then they would be a holy disciple. Saying so was equivalent to not saying anything. However, the 6 great courtyards did place the opportunity there. If they didn't have the ability, what else could they say? Humph! 7-Star Child saw the crowd's reaction and couldn't help but snort coldly, instantly silencing everyone. Although Long Shensi and the other holy disciples didn't say anything, their meaning was clear. Don't be delusional. Chapter 1839. Well, that's about it. In the end, the Sage Master wrapped things up and said, at the teleportation point, each of you will receive your own identity medallion. Then, you may head to the Middle Sky Mountain Range. The Sage Master didn't say anything else. He left with the higher-ups of the Sky Academy and soon disappeared. I didn't expect that the rewards for the 6 Academies Alliance competition this time would be the divine fruit of cloning and the Saint Fetus. It's beyond my imagination. That's right. Who would have thought that the reward this time would be so amazing? However, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to get the divine fruit of cloning, let alone the Saint Fetus. These belong to the geniuses. We can only watch from the sidelines. Many people said so, but everyone could see the desire in their eyes. Who didn't want the divine fruit of cloning and the Saint Fetus of cloning? They might be able to get it. Chu Yang knew that the competition between the 6 academies would be intense when he saw that many people had already become excited. He also felt the same way. Therefore, he didn't say much. He brought the parrot and the others to meet up with Shangguan Lan. He got his waist token and went straight to the Zhongtian mountain range through the teleportation array. His greed became more and more uncontrollable during this process. Even if he knew it was like a moth flying into a flame, he would still rush over. Let's see who will be the hero this time. Chu Yang disappeared from the teleportation array with this mentality. There was no need to rush to the Zhongtian mountain range. Many people deliberately fell behind, such as Gongsun Long. The divine fruit of cloning isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is the Saint Fetus. Gongsun Long was also very eager to get the Saint Fetus. He thought for a while and said to himself, "It seems that I can only rely on Qian Zi this time." He contacted Qian Zi and got a positive answer. He was even happier, and the smile on his face became brighter. He felt that his rise would be in this 6 Academies Alliance competition. However, someone suddenly came back to report. When he heard Chu Yang's name, the smile on his face disappeared. His face became extremely cold in an instant, as if summer had turned into winter in the blink of an eye. What are the reactions of the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy? Gong Sun Long's voice was as cold as ice. Young Master Gong Sun, the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy's reaction has been very calm. Generally speaking, they've already received the news. This person was already drenched in cold sweat. He spoke very carefully and even couldn't help but tremble slightly. They still don't believe that bastard is Eastern Wilderness 002, right? When Gong Sun Long spoke, his expression was filled with mockery. To him, this could not be any more obvious. Eastern Wilderness 002 was good at making lightning bolt. How could a wild dog like Chu Yang not be good at making lightning bolt? This wild dog not only used the Thunder Tribulation to threaten the Saint Master and the Sky Academy, but also forced Long Xiaojun to submit. In fact, there was one more thing that was even more shocking, and that was the Heavenly Transformation, which had triggered a Heavenly Transformation level lightning punishment. This was also the reason why Gong Sun Long had always been afraid of Chu Yang and did not dare to face Chu Yang head-on. Anyone who could survive a lightning punishment of this level would definitely be extremely terrifying. Of course, that was all Gong Sun Long had. He did not have enough evidence to prove that Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. However, according to his intuition, Chu Yang was definitely Eastern Wilderness 002. This intuition had never been wrong. In many cases, it had played a crucial role. To be exact, his intuition had saved his life several times. Chapter 1840. Unfortunately, things didn't go smoothly. According to this humble one's feeling, those from the 1,000 Elephant Courtyard indeed don't attach too much importance to this matter. They also seem to have prepared for it. I reckon that they will make trouble for that wild dog, but they won't put in too much effort. The person carefully voiced his opinion. Their focus should be on the divine fruit of Doppelganger and the holy embryo. Even if Chu Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002, he'll definitely be put behind them. If it was Gong Sun Long would definitely do the same. However, the difference was that he believed that if this wild dog was East Baron 002, if he did not get rid of it, the divine fruit of Doppelganger and the divine embryo would all fall into the wild dog's hands. In Gong Suanlong's opinion, Eastern Wilderness 002, which was also Chu Yang, was the biggest threat. Bunch of idiots. Gong Sun Long cursed before asking, "What about the Star Battle Academy?" The Star Battle Academy. According to my observations and secret investigations, they seem to have grasped a huge weakness of East Wasteland 002. They have a feeling that victory is within their grasp, so they are fearless. However, this little one is unable to confirm if this is the case. The Star Battle Academy had a hold on Chu Yang? Gong Sun Long couldn't help but feel puzzled. Chu Yang was a wild dog. What kind of hold could they have on a wild dog like him? This was especially true for the Star Battle Academy. A wild dog like Chu Yang was almost impossible for them to come into contact with. Could it be an outside move? In the end, Gong Sun Long still couldn't figure it out. He said, "The Star Battle Academy and the Myriad Courtyard already know about this. They'll definitely have a conflict with the wild dog like Chu Yang. However, it seems like they'll continue to suffer." The person who came to report didn't dare to interrupt him. He only listened quietly. Continue to pay attention to the Star Battle Academy and the Myriad Courtyard's movements. Yes, young Master Gong Sun Long. After Gong Sun Long arranged everything, he went to the Culmination Mountain Range through the teleportation array. Although Qian Zi had helped him in secret, the key was still him. At the same time, the students from the Star Academy, Myriad Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Sky Sword Academy, and Sky Demon Academy all made their way to the culmination mountain range. Star Combat Academy. The huge square was filled with people. It was unknown how many there were, but the hubbub of voices seemed to have spread to the 9 heavens. In the center of the square, there was a tall and straight white-clothed youth. He was the focus of everyone's attention. Many young girls were looking at this white-clothed youth with infatuated expressions. The white-clothed young man had an elegant face and a warm and sunny smile on his face. He was cultured and refined, calm and collected. Every movement of his was very steady, so steady that it made people feel assured to leave everything to him, because he would definitely not mess it up. His movements were also very slow. Even his smile was very slow. His smile was like the process of a flower blooming, appearing bit by bit. He was not anxious at all. He was not anxious about anything. It was as if there was absolutely nothing in this world that could make him anxious. The white-clothed young man was the new star child of the Star Academy, Nangong Xing. Star Child, didn't we reveal too much information to the person from the Sky Academy just now? A student beside him asked with a flattering smile. He did not need an answer, but he wanted to get closer to Nangong Xing. Therefore, he tried his best to talk about as much as possible. Obviously, this question was the most appropriate one. It doesn't matter, Nangong Xing said with a smile. After all, they are from the Heaven and Earth Party of the Sky Academy. There is no harm in letting them know more. Perhaps they will cooperate better with us. That so-called Gong Sunlong is more anxious than us. Star Child, you are indeed far-sighted. The person immediately flattered and tried to find a topic to talk about. However, that Eastern Wilderness 002 is indeed impressive. Not only is he a Supreme Realm practitioner, but he is also a Divine Arts practitioner. His methods are astonishing, and he might even be the descendant of a supreme figure. Chapter 1841. Feng Hui, you don't have to worry about this. I already have a plan, Nangong Xing said. Just do whatever I tell you to do. As long as you don't go against my orders, nothing will happen. Nangong Xing then added, I'll say this first. If any of you dare to mess around and disobey my orders, don't blame me for being rude. His words revealed a certain confidence that came from a strategist who could determine victory from 1,000 miles away. This was definitely not a bluff. If he had the qualifications to say such words, then he naturally had the corresponding strength. Bai Chenxing was the previous star child of the Star Do Academy. Back then, Nangong Xing was even more outstanding than Bai Chenxing. Many people had suggested that he compete with Bai Chenxing for the position of Star Child, but he had shook his head and said that there was no need. There was no need to compete for the position of Star Child, and it would naturally land in his hands. Because of this, Bai Chenxing had even said that he was arrogant and had come to provoke Nangong Xing, but he had been easily defeated by Nangong Xing. However, this matter had not spread far and wide, so very few people knew about it. Most importantly, Nangong Xing's words had come true. There was no need for him to compete with Bai Chenxing because Bai Chenxing had been quickly killed by Eastern Wilderness 002 in the Seven Wheels Demon Realm, and Nangong Xing had successfully become the new Star Child. No one dared to compete with him. From then on, everyone in the Star Do Academy was even more convinced of Nangong Xing, and they were even more fearful of him. There was actually another matter, but this matter was related to the wild dog, and it had also been planned by Nangong Xing. However, even fewer people knew about this matter, so Nangong Xing would definitely use this matter to make an issue out of it. The person called Feng Hui smiled. Star Child, there's no need for you to specially instruct me on such matters. If anyone dares to disobey your orders, I, Feng Hui, will be the first to not let them off. The people around him could easily sense Feng Hui's smile. Their smiles froze for a moment, but they quickly recovered. Because of that, the bystanders were able to understand. Although Nangong Xing appeared to be very gentle and amiable, his temperament and methods were extremely ruthless. Whenever he attacked, he would kill. His methods caused others to tremble in fear. If it wasn't for the fact that Beiqianxing was killed by Eastern Wilderness 002, they would have thought that Nangong Xing had used someone else to kill Beiqianxing. How's the information about Chu Yang from the Sky Academy coming along? Starchild, the person from the Sky Academy has already explained it in detail. Immediately, the warm and sunny smile on Nangong Xing's face disappeared. His face turned extremely cold, causing the people around him to feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. After a while, Nangong Xing slowly said, "What did I say just now? If I tell you to do something, you have to do it, right?" Starchild, forgive me. With a plop, Feng Hui and the others all knelt down. They were extremely terrified and had already started to tremble. Humph! Nangong Xing snorted coldly. "Only this time. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being merciless." After that, he said, "What the people from the Sky Academy collected is what the Sky Academy collected. You didn't do it yourself or verify it. How can you be sure that what the person from the Sky Academy said is all true? There are many things that you have to see with your own eyes. Do you understand?" "Yes, Starchild. We'll go and collect it right away. It's too late. Let's talk about it when we arrive at the Zhongtian mountain range." Nangong Xing refused. Then, he entered the transmission formation and headed for the Zhongtian mountain range. At the same time, in the Nature Academy, the person in charge of Chu Yang's matter was also the new son of all creations. Compared with Nangong Xing, this son of all creations was much uglier. To be exact, he was much uglier than ordinary people. His name also had the word Chou in it. He was called Li Chou. Chapter 1842. Originally, no one knew about Li Chou, nor had they ever heard of him. However, he had suddenly become the new all-creation child, so there were many people who wanted to challenge him. He accepted the challenges one by one and defeated everyone who thought he could become the new all-creation child. He even defeated a holy disciple, which instantly caused an uproar in the myriad court. Only after that did people slowly dig out Li Chou's origins. Fang Jing heard that he was a demon-level genius that the Myriad Academy had intentionally concealed. Because Li Xingsan was killed in the Seven Wheels demonic region, he had no choice but to stand out in the open. From then on, no one dared to question Li Chou, even if his appearance was ugly. Of course, that wasn't all. During one of his secluded cultivation, Li Chou had an epiphany and a shocking vision appeared. The figure of a supreme figure appeared, and it was said that he was the figure of the all-creation ruler. Li Chou had already obtained the Lord of all creation's recognition. Obviously, to be able to obtain the Lord of all creation's recognition, Li Chou's creation ability had to be extremely shocking. Even Li Xingsan couldn't compare to him, because even Li Xingsan hadn't obtained the Lord of all creation's recognition. Li Chou was also thinking about Chu Yang. Just as Gong Sunlong had thought, Li Chou didn't place Chu Yang's matter above the most pressing and urgent matters. There should be a clear distinction between priority and urgency. Even if Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, what he needed to do now wasn't to kill Chu Yang and restore the Myriad Court's reputation. Moreover, this wasn't easy to do. Therefore, to Li Chou, the most important thing now was the divine clone fruit. Yes, that was right. He only wanted the divine clone fruit. He didn't even think about the so-called sacred fetus, because it was almost impossible to compete with the holy disciples of the 6 great academies for the sacred fetus. Li Chou would never place all his efforts on an illusory hope. To him, that was simply too stupid to be cured. If Chu Yang knew that Li Chou could be so calm in front of the sacred embryo, not moved in the slightest, he would definitely be filled with admiration. That was because he couldn't do it. He couldn't be as rational and clear-headed as Li Chou. At this moment, Li Chou was still very clear-headed. If that Chu Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002, then my main opponent this time will definitely be him. If that's the case, why did Brother Li casually dismiss the people from the Heaven and Earth Society from the Sky Court? The people around Li Chou were very close to him, as if they were his friends. Li Chou's arrogance was definitely not high. Only by disappointing them will they work harder. Li Chou could not help recalling the various things about Chu Yang that the person from the Heaven-Earth faction in the Sky Court had mentioned. He muttered to himself, "A lightning tribulation that caused the heavens to change. How can he easily clear such a lightning tribulation? He is truly unfathomable." Before seeing Chu Yang and not knowing what Chu Yang looked like, Li Chou had already raised Chu Yang's danger level to the highest. Brother Li is right. If the Sky Court's Chu Yang is really Eastern Wilderness 002, then he is indeed not easy to deal with. If we're not careful, we might end up in the same situation. Li Chou nodded. That's right. If that Chu Yang uses the same trick and uses the lightning tribulation to intimidate everyone, then there's nothing we can do. Naturally, it was not just the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Academy. They were preparing for the competition for the Divine Clone Fruit and the Sacred Embryo. The Divine Firmament Academy, the Sky Demon Academy, and the Sky Sword Academy were also doing the same. There were definitely many people from the three academies who were concerned about Chu Yang. For example, the Divine Firmament Academy's Su Yiling, the Sky Sword Academy's Feng Polong, and the Sky Demon Academy's Jing Wuming. Because of Chu Yang, although the Six Academies Alliance tournament had not officially begun, they could already smell the scent of a storm. Let me see how the Six Academies Alliance tournament will end up. Who will be the worm and who will be the dragon in the Six Academies Alliance tournament? Who will be the one who will rise and fall? Let's make the storm even fiercer. The three of them carried different emotions as they headed towards the Middle Sky Mountain Range. At the Middle Sky Mountain Range, the Six Academies were about to converge. It was destined to be a turbulent storm as heroes vied for supremacy. Chapter 1843. The stars moved and the heaven and earth changed. There was a sense of chaos. Chu Yang and the others were already incomparably familiar with this feeling. During the teleportation process, time and space would often be temporarily chaotic. Or rather, to the people being teleported, they would feel that time was chaotic. But this process would not take too long. In just an instant, the transmission was completely completed. Chu Yang and Shangguan Lan immediately appeared on a platform. In front of them was an endless mountain range, shrouded in fog. Many mountain ranges pierced into the clouds, like a heavenly sword. Some mountain ranges were very flat, but the area they occupied was extremely large. It seemed that they were not low originally, and were definitely not flat. It was just that they had flattened a vast ocean, which was why they were like this. Most of the mountain ranges were huge and majestic, making people feel small and insignificant. Is this the Middle Sky Mountain Range? It's really magnificent! Chu Yang couldn't help but exclaim. When he was in the Eastern Wilderness at the Coiling Dragon Martial Courtyard, he felt that the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range was big enough and amazing enough, but after seeing the mountain range here, everything was overturned. Compared to the mountain range in front of him, the mountain range in his memory could only be regarded as a small hill at most. There is always a mountain beyond a mountain. I just arrived at this moment. Did I completely understand this sentence? Chu Yang sighed and smiled bitterly. Bumpkin! Bumpkin turtle! Bumpkin bastard! Lu Yunpeng, Xiao Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang all spoke out in disdain. They were not afraid that Chu Yang would go berserk. Even if they were beaten, they would not hesitate. If they were given another chance, they would definitely do the same. There were definitely not many opportunities to despise Chu Hang. Now that there was one, how could they miss it? The parrot's eyes widened as it looked at the magnificent mountain range in front of it. It was speechless. However, when it heard that Xia Wanjin and the other two were disdainful of it, and were even willing to die for it, it immediately said, "Cheater Chu, it's not that this divine bird despises you. But, you're too inexperienced. You should increase your experience. Don't play shameless tricks all day long. Only when you see your own insignificance and inadequacies will you slack off." Surprisingly, Chu Yang did not fly into a rage. Instead, he spoke of his so-called philosophy of life. However, in less than half a second everything changed. It seems that this marshal has decided to keep a low profile. This decision is indeed becoming more and more sensible. This marshal indeed has foresight. Waha! Brother Goat, there is no sea here. Shangguan Lan could only roll her eyes. Lan Lan, you're not interesting at all. Chu Yang immediately criticized. It's good that the sea is in my heart, but it's not as good as you being in my heart. That is a kind of yearning. Otherwise, if I face the sea all day long and the flowers bloom in spring, I will be bored. The constant sweet talk made Shangguan Lan blush, and Lu Yunping and the others had to continue to learn more about it. The light was dazzling. Just as Chu Yang and the others were talking and laughing, the light of the formation kept flashing. In just a moment, many people appeared around them. Men and women, handsome or ugly, beautiful or gorgeous, densely packed together, and uncountable. Furthermore, more and more people were being teleported over. The students of the 6 great academies were all gathered here. Then, they set off from here and went to the martial arts practice field that the 6 great academies had set up in advance. Chapter 1844. Let's go. By then, some people were already heading towards the culmination mountain range. With all the students from the 6 great campuses gathered there, it was easy for the big fish to eat the small fish. It could be said that many people had encountered danger as soon as they arrived, and might even have to return home. As more people arrived, more and more students gathered. Fortunately, the place was spacious enough to accommodate many of the students from the 6 great campuses. At the same time, the auras of the students from the 6 great campuses became more and more tyrannical, each more astonishing than the last. It could be said that good and bad people were mixed together. The scene was a bit noisy and chaotic. There were already people fighting, and there were even screams of agony. The fight had begun. Chu Yang took out his waist tag and looked at the number on it, 1,000. It's only 1,000 points. How long will it take? How many people will I bully? It's too expensive to start now. If I'm not careful, I'll become a target for everyone. He thought for a moment and immediately gave up on the idea of fighting here. If he wanted to fight, he had to fight with the ability. That way, he would have more points. He defined himself as the big fish, the super big one. Chu Hang, what's our strategy now? The parrot asked. I feel that many consciousnesses have already locked onto us. If the parrot could feel it, then so could he. Humph! Chu Yang couldn't help but snort coldly. Everyone from the 6 great campuses was paying attention to him. It seems that the 6 great campuses all suspect that I'm Eastern Wilderness 002. Then, he frowned. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. I'm afraid I'm in a lot of trouble. You guys do as you see fit. Chu Yang thought for a moment and said, You can follow me or act on your own. In the Eastern Wilderness, the 3 of us have decided to act on our own in the 6 Great Campuses Alliance Tournament. Cui Xinho, Hao Haodong, and Olajing didn't want to be under Chu Yang's protection. Chu Yang didn't immediately agree. He said, Are you prepared? The 3 of them were from the Eastern Wilderness. In the 6 Great Campuses Alliance Tournament, they would easily be targeted. Chu Yang naturally didn't feel at ease. Hao Haodong immediately laughed. Eastern Wilderness. I've been with you for so long. If I haven't learned anything, then I can just slit my own throat. If anyone thinks that we're easy to bully, we'll teach them a lesson. Eastern Wilderness. Don't worry. We're all on the verge of a breakthrough. If that fool comes looking for us, they'll get a taste of the lightning tribulation. Cui Xinho was the last to speak. Chu Yang confirmed that this was indeed the case and immediately nodded. You have to be careful. Once you are separated, I may not be able to take care of you. The Eastern Wilderness, we understand. The three of them flew away at once, and disappeared into the mountain range in an instant. I'll act alone. Following Chu Hang, there was never a chance for me to show off. Chu Hang's shadow area is too big. Lu Yunping, Xiao Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang also left together. In the end, only Chu Yang, Shangguan Lan, the parrot, Shangguan Mei, and Hong Niao were left. Shangguan Lan didn't plan to leave. During this period of time, she had spent too little time with Chu Yang, so she didn't plan to leave this time. Chapter 1845. Shangguan Lan just rolled her eyes at Chu Yang, but she was looking forward to joining hands with Chu Yang. At this time, Chu Yang also began to look around. He immediately saw many nervous people, and people who were extremely vigilant. He also saw many taut faces. Many people already couldn't wait to stare at those who were relatively weaker. They rubbed their fists and were eager to give it a try. There were all kinds of greedy gazes everywhere. It was as if everyone had become a demon released from hell after arriving here. They no longer had any scruples. The surrounding atmosphere was very oppressive, and there were even some who were ready to fight. However, even if a conflict broke out here, it would definitely not be the most intense. At most, it could only be regarded as a small fight. The most intense time had not come yet. Huff, Chu Yang exhaled a long breath of air. Then, he took in a deep breath. The air that entered his nose seemed to have the smell of blood at this moment. It even turned red. Scenes of killing could not help but appear in his mind. After that, his black eyes suddenly became fierce, and the aura on his body became incomparably austere. He said to himself in his heart, "Come on, let me see how amazing this joint competition is. How will the 6 great academies target me?" The killing intent in his heart was fierce. Such a change shocked Shangguan Lan, Shangguan Mei, and Hong Niao. At this moment, Chu Yang was completely different from his usual cheerful appearance. It was as if a divine weapon had been unsheathed, and his whole body was full of sharp aura. Shangguan Lan's beautiful eyes looked at Chu Yang's side profile. After a little surprise, she calmed down. In her opinion, this might be the real Chu Yang. The depression and pressure that had accumulated in his heart were finally torn off at this time. Maybe I don't understand the pressure on Brother Yang. Shangguan Lan knew very well that Chu Yang not only carried the hope of the entire Eastern Wilderness, but also carried all kinds of criticism and hostility because of her. However, when had she ever seen Chu Yang complain? When had she ever seen him feel discouraged? There was no need to talk about fear. To her, Chu Yang only gave her a smile, only joy and only hope. He would never let her feel the slightest bit of sorrow or pessimism. When Shangguan Lan thought of this, when she looked at Chu Yang again, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but be filled with infinite tenderness. Even if she thought of Chu Yang's indecent appearance in the past, shameless, unrestrained, and messing around, she definitely wouldn't think anything of it. After all, as a person, there was bound to be pressure. If he didn't vent, how could it be possible? The only difference was that Chu Yang's way of venting his stress was different from others. Even if he felt bitter in his heart, he would definitely release it with a smile. "Lan Lan, let's go take a look at the scenery first." Yes. Shangguan Lan nodded, and Chu Yang was about to take a step forward. But at this moment, with a whoosh, something flew towards him. He raised his hand and scooped it up and caught it. It was an arm. In an instant, Chu Yang's pupils shrank. This arm belonged to a man, and he looked a little familiar. Who could it be? As soon as the question appeared in his mind, a voice immediately drilled into his ears. Wild dog, take a look. Do you recognize it? Someone asked me to bring you a message. When you see this arm, who do you think of? This arm belonged to someone he knew, and he was more familiar with it. Buzz. Suddenly, Chu Yang's mind exploded. Big Brother! Chapter 1846. Has Big Brother returned to the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness? They already know about my relationship with Big Brother? In an instant, too many questions popped up in Chu Yang's mind. One of the questions he had to answer was whether or not the other party had confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. If the other party had confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, then there was no need to test him anymore. This was a threat, using Big Brother Chu Fei to blackmail him into doing certain things, such as seizing the divine fruit of Doppelganger or obtaining the sacred embryo. If the other party had not confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, then this was a test. The moment he gave himself away, the other party would immediately see through him. Chu Yang could not confirm which was the case. The only thing he could confirm was that he had already lost, completely lost. He could not afford to gamble. Big Brother's life was more important than anything else. As for the problem, and how he had been exposed, there was only one place: the barren village. If Big Brother entered the East Continent, he would definitely enter the barren village. Many people in the barren village knew his identity, so the barren village was the only point of contact. I wonder what's the situation in the barren village now? Chu Yang was extremely worried, but he calmed himself down. He let out a long breath of turbid air and sensed the source of the voice, but he could not find the other party. Ghosts and monsters, shameful things. He was secretly angry, but there was nothing he could do. The other party was really careful, not giving him a chance at all. Even if he wanted to and had the strength, he could not use it. It was very frustrating. How is it? Is it enough? The voice came out again, making Chu Yang, who was waiting, happy. However, he still couldn't find the shadow of the other party. Moreover, this time, the other party had said it publicly, which made many people surprised. It's enough. This is indeed my Big Brother's arm. Chu Yang had to admit that his intuition couldn't be wrong. His divine sense had clearly sensed that kind of bloodline in his arm. It came from the same source as his own bloodline. Therefore, he was extremely sure that this was his elder brother's arm. Whoosh! In an instant, everyone couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. Shangguan Lan's delicate body trembled, and she instantly understood everything. Her heart thumped. Brother Yang's eldest brother was caught, and his arm was cut off. Gong Sun Long. She immediately thought of Gong Sun Long. The first time, when Chu Yang's elder brother, Chu Fei's arm was chopped off by Gong Sun Long, it was she who saved Chu Fei's life. This time, it was the same situation again. She naturally thought of Gong Sun Long at the first moment, but after thinking about it, she was not sure. Gong Sun Long doesn't know the relationship between Big Brother Yang and Big Brother. However, it was also possible. If Gong Sun Long investigated Chu Yang, it was not impossible for him to find out. Therefore, Shangguan Lan couldn't be sure. The only thing she was sure of was that Chu Yang was about to explode. His elder brother had an arm chopped off before, and this time, another arm was chopped off. One could imagine how he felt. So, you admit that you are Eastern Wilderness 002? Chu Yang was delighted when he heard this. It seemed that the other party was not sure that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 at all. However, this kind of joy disappeared in a flash. Maybe the other party was deliberately teasing him, or maybe the other party deliberately made him think so that he would react according to the other party's set and do what the other party wanted. Fortunately, he had always called himself Eastern Wilderness 002, and now he admitted it again. Whether it was true or not, it was still up to people to guess. I am Eastern Wilderness 002. Chapter 1847. Boom. When everyone from the 6 great academies heard this, there was an uproar. Countless gazes were focused on Chu Yang. Everyone knew what Eastern Wilderness 002 had done in the 7 Wheels Demon region. He ranked on the Divine Steel, suppressed the East Continent, killed Bei Xing and Li Xingsan, humiliated the heads of the 6 great academies with the help of the Thunder Tribulation, and even claimed to be the descendant of the supreme figure in the 7 Wheels Demon region. Everyone in the East Continent knew who Eastern Wilderness 002 was, and who didn't want to know who Eastern Wilderness 002 was. Now, the answer seemed to be revealed at this moment. Everyone from the Sky Academy knew Chu Yang and heard him claim to be Eastern Wilderness 002, so they soon calmed down after the surprise. However, many people from the other 5 great academies didn't know this. How could they be shocked when they heard it? He's Eastern Wilderness 02? Eastern Wilderness 002 is a student of the Sky Academy? Eastern Wilderness 002 is only at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm. Is it possible? Many questions and doubts burst out in an instant. Pairs of eyes were looking up and down at Chu Yang, and there was no lack of top geniuses from the 6 great academies among them. Su Yiling from the Heaven Academy had a deep impression of Eastern Wilderness 002. At this moment, after hearing the news, her beautiful eyes fell on Chu Yang, as if she couldn't wait to pierce countless holes in Chu Yang with her eyes. Feng Polong of the Heavenly Sword Academy was similar to Su Yiling. At that time, he had even sent a message to the Li family of the 7 Wheel City on behalf of East Wasteland 002. He had even agreed that if there was a chance, he would definitely compete with East Wasteland 002. However, the identity of Eastern Wilderness 002 was mysterious, and there was no trace at all. Feng Polong never expected that at the beginning of the 6 Great Academies Alliance competition, someone would admit that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. However, Feng Polong's momentary shock and surprise soon disappeared. He had been paying attention to the news of Eastern Wilderness 002. There was an Eastern Wilderness person from the Sky Academy, who seemed to be called Chu Yang. He once claimed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 and said something like, "I am me," and different fireworks. Therefore, the person in front of him was very likely to be the so-called Chu Yang. Why was he so happy? However, although everything was like this, when he saw Chu Yang, everything was shaken again. He felt the same aura from Chu Yang, the same aura as East Wasteland 002. At the same time, Su Yiling also had the same feeling, but this feeling was born directly from them. Eastern Wilderness 002's realm wasn't high. When he was in the 7 Wheels Demon realm, he was only at the 8th level of the Spirit realm. According to the time, he should be at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm now. This is very reasonable. But I can't tell what's so great about him. If we can tell, then Eastern Wilderness 002 isn't Eastern Wilderness 002. I heard that he was trapped in the 7 Wheels Demon realm, right? That can be believed. Eastern Wilderness 002 clearly wants to deceive everyone. Whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, the discussion among the 5 great academies became even more intense. In just a moment, Chu Yang seemed to have become the center of the scene. It was as if he was surrounded by people. It was unknown how many people there were. If they were to cause a commotion, the consequences would be unpredictable. At the very least, the parrot's liver was already trembling. It secretly said in its heart, "Oh my God, Chu Hang has always done some heartless things. I'm afraid that he will suffer retribution. I'm afraid that this divine bird will also suffer." However, it didn't complain, nor did it curse Chu Yang. This was because if that person wasn't Chu Yang's elder brother, but it was very sure that Chu Yang would definitely do the same. As long as it was related to its safety, Chu Yang would definitely not hesitate. Chapter 1848. Chu Yang wasn't angry, happy, worried, or fearful. He was calm and indulgent. Any pessimistic or negative emotions wouldn't be of any use at this time. They wouldn't be able to save his elder brother. Instead, they would only make his elder brother die faster. His elder brother's life depended on his performance. His wisdom did not allow him to have any trace of willfulness. How can you prove that you are Eastern Wilderness 002? The voice came out again. It seemed that no one could be sure that Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, but Chu Yang would never be confused by the voice and think so. I am who I am. How can I prove it? Chu Yang smiled and said, As I said before, you force me to show you that I am who I am? What does he mean? The people from the 5 academies were confused. Then they found that the people from the Sky Academy did not seem to have much reaction to this at all. They were not surprised at all. Most of them were watching the fun and waiting to see a joke. Chu Yang is unstoppable in the Sky Academy. He claimed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 long ago. I also heard that he deliberately attracted attention to divert the pressure from Eastern Wilderness 002. I've heard about it too. I'm just me. I'm a different kind of firework. I have a deep impression of that sentence. Hearing the discussion of the bystanders, the people from the 5 great academies finally understood the reason. Then they were shocked. Chu Yang's cultivation was not high, but he could do whatever he wanted in the Sky Academy and no one could control him? So, you don't want your elder brother's life? In the face of this voice, Chu Yang said calmly, I have done as you said, haven't I? Humph. I asked you to prove that you are Eastern Wilderness 002. You must prove it. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. I will chop your elder brother and feed him to the dogs. Chu Yang's heart burned with anger, but he could only suppress it. He had no choice but to compromise. He had to prove that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. He was really aggrieved to the extreme, but he didn't dare to show any trace of willfulness. After thinking for a while, he said, I'm good at threatening or killing others with the help of the Thunder Tribulation. Everyone in the Sky Academy knows this. Second, Chu Yang continued, I'm also proficient in the art of the stars, and I'm also proficient in the secret technique of the Star Academy, the 7 Kneels of the Star-Lord. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his finger. Immediately, there was a rumbling sound in the void. Suddenly, it darkened and stars appeared. Then, a child appeared and kowtowed to a mountain in front of him. Rumble! That mountain immediately exploded, completely collapsing. Smoke and dust rushed into the sky, giant rocks tumbling down like waves, turning the sky and earth upside down. It was a horrifying scene. When everything calmed down, the mountain in front of them seemed to have been erased. A large gap had appeared in the continuous mountain range. The first move of the 7 Kneels of the Star-Lord, landslide. There were 7 moves in the 7 Kneels of the Star-Lord. The first kneel was landslide, the second kneel was sea withering, the third kneel was earth destroying, the fourth kneel was sky collapsing, the fifth kneel was moon falling, the fifth kneel was sun falling, and the 7th kneel was star falling. These 7 kneels would show the Star-Lord at different stages. In the first kneel, the one who knelt was a child, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, and the last one was the Star-Lord who had become the ruler of the starry sky. In an instant, Chu Yang performed all the 7 kneels of the Star-Lord. In this short period of time, the Zhongtian mountain range, where the students of the 6 academies gathered, seemed to be doomsday. Loud noises and explosions rang out continuously. Endless starlight and endless majesty burst out. The 7 kneels of the Celestial Lord had only been executed once, but this place was immediately in a complete mess. The mountains, lakes, plants, beasts, and so on were all destroyed. Everything was destroyed, and the terrain was completely changed. It could be said to be extremely shocking. Chapter 1849. This should be fine, right? This was naturally Chu Yang's voice. After he spoke, everyone seemed to have come back to their senses. However, when many people looked at him again, they were shocked and could not help but feel respect for him. Shangguan Lan could naturally hear how much helplessness there was in this sentence. Based on Chu Yang's character, she did not even need to think to know how turbulent Chu Yang's anger and killing intent were. She also knew how difficult it was to control them. For a moment, the killing intent in her heart also spread endlessly. The parrot's pupils also shrank. It did not have time to fool around. It was afraid of death, but when it should not be afraid of death, it could also do it. Why is there no response? Chu Yang asked again. However, this was the only way. He was the meat on the chopping board. Celestial Lord 7 kneels. Other than the Star Do Academy, Eastern Wilderness 002 is not the only one who can use it. Am I right? Chu Yang's eyebrows were almost raised. However, after thinking for a moment, his heart skipped a beat. The other party indeed had a lot of knowledge. That's right, he was not the only one who knew the Celestial Lord 7 kneels. He had also taught it to someone else. To be precise, it was a child. That was his disciple, Wang Bushang. Could it be that even he is controlled by the other party? If that's the case, I'm afraid that the barren village. Chu Yang did not dare to think further. Perhaps he did not need to think further because the result was already out. However, even at this moment, his heart was bleeding. He had no choice but to compromise. He could not be willful at all. He said, 7 kneels of Star-Lord 7 kneels is the best proof that I will die. Eastern Wilderness 002. If you still think that this is not enough, just tell me what you want me to do. He was telling the truth. The Celestial Lord 7 kneels was indeed the best evidence to prove that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. If this was not enough, then there was no more reliable way. The voice did not respond for a long time. After an unknown period of time, it said, Eastern Wilderness 002 is really good. He has already wiped out all the evidence. Hearing this, he didn't have a better idea, and he couldn't confirm whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. Naturally, everyone understood what he meant. Chu Yang asked again, what are your conditions? Simple, he. The voice laughed strangely. Give me the divine doppelganger fruit and the holy embryo in exchange for your big brother's life. Otherwise, we'll chop him up and feed him to the dogs. As soon as he finished speaking, the voice completely disappeared, and there was no way to capture it. Doppelganger, divine fruit, and sacred embryo? Is the other party from one of the 6 great academies? Chu Yang's heart was filled with hatred. This was only a guess, and there was no way to confirm it. It was even possible that the other party had intentionally led him on. Boom! The crowd was in an uproar. The other party's appetite was so big. Not only did he want to obtain the divine doppelganger fruit, but he also wanted to obtain the saint-level saint embryo. Not to mention whether Chu Yang was willing or not. Even if he was willing, could he do it? It might be possible to obtain the divine doppelganger fruit, but with Chu Yang's current cultivation, how could he compete with those holy disciples for the saint-level saint embryo? A fool's dream was tantamount to a fantasy. Of course, more people understood that the other party was deliberately teasing Chu Yang, and wanted to force Chu Yang to his death. They could foresee that this so-called Chu Yang would be miserable. He would probably end up in a state where he could neither live nor die. In addition, many people, such as Gong Sunlong, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, Su Yiling, Feng Polong, and Li Chou, wanted to know more. Who was the other party? It was very likely that the sneaky person was hiding among them. If they were not careful, they would be plotted against by the other party, and even die in the other party's hands. Chapter 1850. Phew! Chu Yang once again let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what other people thought, this result wasn't the worst. After all, he still had a chance to catch his breath. And as long as he had a chance to catch his breath, he would have a chance to save himself. He was not afraid that the other party would have a request, but he was afraid that the other party would not have any requests. Kun, did you catch that little person just now? Chu Yang asked the Ice Kun in his grotto heaven. Master, I didn't dare to act rashly. That little person just now was a saint. The Ice Kun explained, I don't know the other party's exact strength, so I didn't act rashly to avoid being discovered by the other party. A saint. Chu Yang gasped in his heart, and his entire body turned cold. The other party had actually sent a saint. A saint could crush him to death with a raise of his hand. Why would they do this? In an instant, he could not figure it out at all. After all, the gap between him and a saint was too big. Therefore, it was too inconceivable that a saint would specifically deal with him. Could it be that the 6 great schools have joined forces and plan to wipe out all the forces in the eastern wilderness in the East Continent? When such a thought burst out, Chu Yang instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. This explanation seemed to be reasonable. The other party's main target was the Eastern Wilderness 002. Under the circumstances where they were not sure who the Eastern Wilderness 002 was, they temporarily restrained themselves. That was why the other party had sent a saint. If that's the case, then it's really dangerous. Chu Yang only felt that a huge net was silently falling towards him. By the time he realized it, everything was probably too late. Kun, please contact my uncle and tell him my worries. We must control the spacetime passage. Also, ask him to help me contact Saint Peng. Chu Yang began to respond. He was prepared for the worst. If it really did not work out, he would hide in the god's realm and plan the follow-up later. Therefore, he had even made arrangements and preparations for his escape. It was impossible to return to the eastern wilderness. He definitely could not return to the eastern wilderness in a sorry state and let his friends and family see him in such a sorry state. Another reason was that the eastern wilderness was too small. If he retreated, it would be very difficult for him to advance any further. Kun, there is one more thing. Go to the barren village and help me take a look at the situation there. At the moment, everything was just a guess. In order to confirm whether his guess was correct, he had to do all kinds of confirmations and collect all kinds of information. Master, don't worry. They're just a bunch of small fries. They won't be able to do much. The Ice Kun left silently. At that moment, Chu Yang realized that the only thing he could rely on was the Ice Kun. It was only at this moment that the benefits of hiding his strength began to show. Because of the existence of the Ice Kun, everything about him would definitely be outside of the enemy's calculations. However, in the end, it was because he was too weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state. This time, he didn't know how many times he had thirsted for strength. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Chu Yang was ready to take action. Later, he would leave his avatar in the heavenly soul world to act as a front. His original body and other avatars would go and turn the world upside down. In this way, not only would his safety be guaranteed, but it would also play an unexpected role. It would cause a great deal of chaos and stir up the pool of water. Chu Yang had all kinds of plans, but he did not immediately carry them out. Instead, he was making deductions and deliberations to confirm their feasibility. Just as he was deep in thought, he was interrupted by someone. The so-called Eastern Wilderness 002, I would like to see just how capable you are. Chapter 1851. Each of the two teams had about 10 people, and they seemed to have been formed for the 6 Academies Alliance competition. According to their uniforms, one team was from the Sky Sword Academy, and the other team was from the Divine Firmament Academy. The two leaders were tall and had no other distinctive features. One of them was at the 5th level of the Nirvana realm, while the other was at the 6th level. Among the rest, 5 or 6 were at the Nirvana realm, while the rest were at the Transcendence realm. What do you mean? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Chu Yang frowned. He didn't understand the real intention of these two teams. If these two pairs of people had only come to humiliate him, Chu Yang would definitely make them regret being human. Otherwise, with so many people from the 6 great academies who wouldn't come to trample on him, at that time, he would be extremely annoyed. However, if these two teams were here to test his strength, it didn't make sense. Chen Burang had already been defeated by him in the Sky Academy. These small fries, although there were more of them, were useless. Oh, the famous Eastern Wilderness 002 is actually scared. He's so scared that he can't even speak. Ha! Hee, it seems that I, Hu Wenguang, am very impressive. I actually scared Eastern Wilderness 002 to the point that his liver is trembling. The two leaders were even more mocking and arrogant. The one from the Divine Firmament Academy called himself Hu Wenguang. The actions of Hu Wenguang and the people from the Sky Sword Academy immediately attracted countless people's attention. Many people also looked at them with interest. They were happy to see this. Many people also wanted to see how strong this so-called Chu Yang, who might be Eastern Wilderness 002, was. They wanted to see how strong Chu Yang was. The 7 kneels of the Star Lords were amazing, but after all, they were inanimate objects. This time was different. Idiot! Chen Burang immediately sneered. His realm was limited to the Nirvana realm, and he was still no match for Chu Yang. These two were nothing. Humph, idiot! Long Xiaojun also laughed coldly. It was useful to have more people. Even if the 6 great academies attacked together now, it would be useless. If they angered that guy, once the lightning tribulation was triggered, they would all die in droves. Just wait and see. If the Heavenly Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy don't admit defeat, I'll show you how dog shit should be eaten. How dare they play around like that? Wait till Shameless Chu gets mad. I'll wait and see how they'll cry. Ridiculous. What kind of person is Shameless Chu? Even if he isn't Eastern Wilderness 002, he's definitely not someone these small fries can provoke. The people of the Sky Academy were also full of disdain for him. It would have been fine if he was more powerful, but he was so blind to pick a fight. This was tantamount to saying that the Sky Court was not capable enough to deal with Chu Yang, which was a slap to the face of the Sky Court. Therefore, how could they remind these people? When these people found out about Shameless Chu's brutality, they realized that they could be miserable many times over even if they only made one mistake. No, Brother Hu, in my opinion, Eastern Wilderness 002 is angry, completely angry. The person from the Heavenly Sword Academy suddenly made an exaggerated expression. Brother Hu, I'm so scared. How dare you do this? The eyes of the people of the Sky Academy almost popped out. What the hell? Who did you offend? How could you do such a brave thing today? Chu Yang's mentality at this moment was different from before. He didn't want to make a move, but he had no choice. The other party had already stepped on his head and pissed on him. If he didn't respond, he would be bullied by everyone. He wouldn't be safe even if he hid in a mouse hole. Chapter 1852. Chu Yang's gloomy expression suddenly changed into a smile, which made the hearts of the people from the Sky Academy thump. It's over. The two teams from the Heavenly Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy have lost their chariot. Shameless Chu is angry. In their opinion, Shameless Chu was not at the point where he would be bullied by dogs. How dare someone act like this in front of Shameless Chu? It was simply showing off in front of an expert. Hu Wenguang. Chu Yang smiled even more wickedly. He glanced at Hu Wenguang and then looked at the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy. What about you? Wild dog, what kind of tone are you talking to me in? The leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy immediately put on a gloomy face. No one dares to be so arrogant in front of Wang Feiming. Wang Feiming, right? Chu Yang ignored all the words and stretched out 5 fingers. I have roughly 5 packages now, the first package and the 5th package. Which one do you choose? Please order. Shameless Chu, this was the complete shameless Chu. The people from the Sky Academy were very familiar with this kind of Chu Yang. Seeing Chu Yang let Wang Feiming order, they were already suppressing their laughter, because it would definitely be interesting later. You are really arrogant. Even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, so what? Hu Wenguang was also angry and said coldly, Today, if I don't beat you wild dog until you bark and kneel down and beg for mercy, I'll be considered a man in vain. You bastard, I'll also ask you to order? Chu Yang sneered in his heart. A man in vain? You've already said such words. If I don't satisfy you, I'll be very disloyal. Hu Wenguang, back off. Wang Feiming, get out of here. 2 voices sounded out almost at the same time. They were Su Yiling from the Divine Firmament Academy and Feng Polong from the Sky Sword Academy. The 2 of them were in the same position as Bai Chenxing and Li Xingsan. They had a lot of authority. Everyone was surprised. They never would have thought that these 2 people would come out to stop Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. Chu Yang was also a little surprised. He naturally remembered Su Yiling and Feng Polong. These 2 were definitely not bad people, or rather, they were both upright people. Saintess, forgive me for not being able to comply. Sword's son, I didn't want to do this either, but I had to do what someone told me to do. Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming both spoke, letting many people know that they were only following orders. This also caused Chu Yang to be puzzled. Who exactly is it? Wang Feiming, it seems that you want to die by my sword. Feng Polong's voice was very cold, and his eyes were even colder. Every word was like a sword, as if it could kill. However, Wang Feiming was not afraid. He smiled and said, Sword son, just do what you want. There will be someone who will exchange blows with you. Let's see if you dare. Is that so? Duh. Feng Polong's authority was provoked again and again. He directly stepped forward. At this moment, the sound of a sword resounded through the sky. People seemed to see a divine sword flying through the sky. Suddenly, a person appeared in the sky and hovered above Feng Polong. He was dressed in a purple robe with a white face and white hands. There was not a trace of blood, as if he was an ice-cold corpse. At this moment, his white hands were holding the hilt of his sword, as if he could pull it out at any time. The sword also did not have any vitality. It was lifeless, and death chi lingered on it like fog. This death chi was not the death chi of the dead spirit realm, but the death chi of a living creature, or the death chi of a death god. This person had the cultivation of a half-saint. Zhang Jian, you want to stop me? Feng Polong said his name, and his pupils shrank. I owe someone a favor, and I have to repay it no matter what. Zhang Jian's pupils seemed to be fixed or dead. He just looked at Feng Polong without moving. I am a holy disciple, and you have not reached the level of a holy disciple. You are not my opponent, understand? Chapter 1853. Feng Polong's pupils were like swords, and his gaze was like a sword. The sharp aura on his body soared into the sky, and the sounds of his sword clanging continuously rang in everyone's ears. However, everything soon calmed down. Feng Polong admitted that he was no match for Zhang Jian, and he had no intention of making a move. However, he opened his mouth and said, I hope that you understand what you're doing. The consequences of everything you've done today are very likely to be disastrous. When Zhang Jian heard this, he could not help but look at Chu Yang. His pupils, which seemed to have died, were instantly frightened to the point that they seemed to have come back to life, and they suddenly shrank. I owe someone a favor and I need to return it. You might be paying it back with your life. Feng Polong said word by word, is it worth it? Even if I have to pay it back with my life, I still have to pay it back. Zhang Jian did not look at Chu Yang, but Chu Yang could clearly feel a wave of joy coming from his contradictory sword. Is he another sword genius like Xiao Chuyu? Chu Yang was shocked. To be honest, Zhang Jian and Xiao Chuyu had a lot in common. They were cold, sharp, and did things with absolute precision. However, their hearts were so pure that it made one's hair stand on end. Of course, this was just a feeling that Chu Yang had. Suddenly, Zhang Jian opened his mouth again and said, "You're underestimating him too much." Feng Polong was immediately stunned, and then he could not help but nod. "You're right. I still don't know enough about his sword. I'm indeed inferior to you. He's using his sword to judge people. He's the same as Xiao Chuyu." Chu Yang suddenly hated this kind of people. If they judged people based on their base, then so be it. But if they judged people based on their swordsmanship, then he was really unhappy. Obviously, Feng Polong was also a sword genius like Xiao Chuyu, but his sword Dao was far inferior to Xiao Chuyu's. Feng Polong retreated and stopped talking. Many people vaguely realized that the him that Feng Polong and Zhang Jian were talking about was Chu Yang, such as the people from the Sky Academy. However, there were also many people who didn't know who they were talking about, such as Wang Feiming and Hu Wenguang. "Wild dog, don't hope anymore. No one can save you today." Hu Wenguang sneered again. "Not bad." Wang Feiming sneered. "Wild dog, with your arrogance just now, it's useless even if you kneel and beg for mercy." Su Yiling didn't say anything else. She also didn't continue to stop Hu Wenguang's group from the Divine Firmament Academy. Chu Yang thought a lot, but he couldn't figure out any of them. It seemed that none of them were useful. Finally, he was too lazy to think about it. Let's do it first. At the same time, he also noticed that many people were looking at him with eager eyes. Many people also wanted to provoke him and trample on him, who might be the Eastern Wilderness 002, the famous shameless Chu in the Sky Academy. Perhaps this was human nature. To be able to trample a famous person under one's feet was definitely a great feeling. "Little bitch, do you want to participate?" Chu Yang was even angrier. He began to ignore Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming and said to the parrot, "A divine bird's life should be spent like this. When he looks back on the past, he won't regret for wasting his time, nor will he be ashamed for doing nothing, nor will he feel guilty for living a vulgar life. In this way, when he dies, the divine bird can say, 'I have dedicated my entire life and all my energy to the most magnificent cause in the world, to fight for a shameless cause.'" Chapter 1854. The 5 great academies hadn't adapted to such shamelessness. The parrot was suddenly stunned, but the students of the Sky Academy all burst into laughter after hearing this. The so-called most people sounded domineering, but in fact they were very wretched, those in the Dharma characteristic realm. This damn bird had surrounded all the Dharma characteristic realm cultivators in Hu Wenguang's and Wang Feiming's teams, but it didn't provoke any Nirvana realm cultivators. One must have a little comprehension ability, otherwise it would be difficult to understand, such as most of the people in the 5 great academies. "You've grown, little bitch." Chu Yang was definitely not derogatory, but gratified. The parrot had also grown up, and it would definitely be able to resist in the future. That's for sure. The parrot then began to curse, following behind a pervert and being stimulated all day long. "Do you think it's easy for me?" "Ha ha." The people of the Sky Academy burst into laughter when they saw the parrot's rare, worried face. Shangguan Mei couldn't help laughing. This man and the bird were really good at tormenting each other. "Lon Lon, stand aside and watch. Your husband is mighty and domineering." Hearing Chu Yang's words, Shangguan Lan said softly, "Brother Goat, be careful." After that, Chu Yang stretched out his hand and began to divide the two pairs of people. Those in the Dharma characteristic realm, all go to that side. Little bitch has surrounded you. Chu Hang, can you be a little more artistic? The parrot immediately protested. They all say that the most people are in the group. Immediately, it became furious and roared at Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's teams. Are you stupid? Can't you understand the bird's words? Haha. Many students of the Sky Academy almost went crazy with laughter. This damn bird really cared about its reputation. This made many people in the 5 great academies even more surprised. They didn't understand what was so funny, but they still felt strange. Go and deal with that damn bird, Wang Feiming said coldly. Yes. After all the Transcendence Realm cultivators had gone to cause trouble for the parrot, Wang Feiming said to Hu Wenguang, Brother Hu, it's just a wild dog. What do you think of me taking care of it alone? Brother Wang, do as you please. What's the point of fighting over a wild dog? Hu Wenguang and a few Nirvana stage S crossed their arms and watched the show. Chu Yang just smiled, and his smile was extremely mocking. Laugh? Wild dog, I want to see if you can still laugh in a moment. Boom! A torrential amount of qi rolled out like a tidal wave, creating a sound of crashing waves. At the same time, a bloody ray of light shot out and covered the entire sky. Shwa! Wang Feiming held a scarlet blood sword in his hand. He became one with the sword and shot towards Chu Yang like a flying sword. That sword had an eerie sharpness. The scarlet sword energy emitted an extremely ear-piercing whistling sound. It was as if it had pierced a hole in the void, and the whistling sound of the wind pouring in was produced. His eyes were as cold as a viper's, and so was his sword. Swoosh! The sword stabbed out, and the sword's shadow was like a rainbow. The torrential sword chi surged out and instantly turned into sword shadows all over the sky, covering Chu Yang's vital parts. The sword shadows were reflected in Chu Yang's pupils, and the sneer on his face became even more obvious. Suddenly, his face turned cold and he made a move. Chi! He just flicked his finger, and a white ray of sword light pierced out. It seemed that this ray of sword light was incomparable to the sword shadows all over the sky. However, as soon as this ray of sword light appeared, the sword shadows seemed to be dispelled by the light and disappeared in an instant. In an instant, only Wang Feiming's scarlet sword was left, and it stabbed towards Chu Yang alone. Chapter 1855. On the other side, Chu Yang's sword light had already stopped halfway. It was obvious that he had stopped attacking so that Wang Feiming could pull out his sword with all his strength. All of a sudden, Wang Feiming was like a child facing an adult. No matter how much power he exerted, it was useless. It was very ridiculous. Ha ha! The people of the Sky Academy laughed loudly, but they obviously restrained themselves a lot because shameless Chu would definitely cause trouble later, so they had to hold back a little. Otherwise, they would laugh so hard that they would pass out. Ha ha! Chu Yang also suddenly laughed. I'm still laughing, and I'm laughing even louder. I don't like it. Come and bite me. Ha ha! When the people of the Sky Academy heard such a familiar sentence again, they laughed even louder. Feng Polong and Zhang Jian were not surprised at all. It seemed to be normal. It would be abnormal if they didn't. Humph, is it fun to tease an idiot? It's really funny. Chen Burang was very disdainful of Chu Yang. Come on, he's being arrogant again. Long Xiaojun also shook his head. He was a half-saint, but he was still forced to compromise by Chu Yang. These small fries were nothing. It was not enough to describe them as vegetables. Wang Feiming's face turned red and hot. He didn't expect that he would be so embarrassed. The other party only used 2 fingers to make him helpless. You what? Are you still not satisfied? As Chu Yang spoke, the white sword light immediately moved. The cold light approached. Although it was just a sword light, Wang Feiming felt that its sharp qi could cut the sky open. His expression changed drastically, but it was too late. The sword light was too fast. He originally thought that he was going to die, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his forehead. As soon as he sensed it with his divine perception, he immediately saw that the sword light wrote on his forehead, "I'm a bastard." It was one thing to write, but the handwriting was crooked and ugly. This was not enough. This sword light also drew all kinds of tortoises on his face. Wang Feiming was so angry that he almost fainted. "Brother, who do it?" Wang Feiming finally came up with a countermeasure amidst his embarrassment and panic. "Die for me." Actually, there was no need for Wang Feiming to speak at all. Hu Wenguang had already made a move long ago. Rumble! Thunder rumbled. Hu Wenguang had already circled behind Chu Yang and smashed out a fist. The lightning radiance on it illuminated the 9 heavens. As it flickered, it seemed to tear apart the void. Furthermore, it was extremely heavy. Hu Wenguang ruthlessly punched towards Chu Yang's back. But Chu Yang didn't move. He didn't even turn his head. His left hand swung backward like a whip, hitting Hu Wenguang's fist. Then, he clenched his fist. Rumble! Crackle! When the lightning arcs jumped out of Chu Yang's 5 fingers, the lightning that Hu Wenguang burst out was like a flame being extinguished bit by bit. The lightning quickly faded away. The most obvious sound was the sound of the lightning. At first, it was still rumbling, but soon it turned into crackling sounds. After that, there was no sound at all. In the end, no matter how much magic power Hu Wenguang used, the lightning couldn't burst out at all. How is it possible? How can his lightning technique be so profound? It made me a complete idiot in front of him. A trace of extreme fear burst out from the depths of Hu Wenguang's eyes and immediately appeared on his body. He wanted to retreat in panic. However, like Wang Feiming, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't pull his fist out. He had the same ending as Hu Wenguang. At this moment, Chu Yang turned his head and revealed a sinister smile. "I'm right here, waiting for you to kill me. Come and kill me quickly." The rest of the Nirvana realm martial artists were already close to Chu Yang, but they were scared stiff. Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming were scared out of their wits at this moment. Chu Yang spoke again. "Now, can I invite you to order?" Chapter 1856. Chu Yang was all smiles. However, that smile was as cold as the edge of a blade. It made Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's scalps go numb. They finally faintly realized what kind of person they had provoked. The person in front of them was perhaps as terrifying as those people in the bottom of their hearts. His hands have been controlled. Why aren't you attacking? Why are you standing there like idiots? Waiting for death? If the 2 of us are killed, it will be your turn later. There was no other way. Since things had already come to this, Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming could only make a final struggle. When Hu Wenguang roared at the 5 Nirvana stage practitioners, Wang Feiming also roared. "Ha! Everyone in the Sky Academy burst out laughing. Hu Wenguang's so-called control of Shameless Chu's hands was simply a big joke. It was just that Shameless Chu had started to play trick. These 2 clowns thought too highly of themselves. Ha! However, there was nothing wrong with Wang Feiming's words. Shameless Chu had always been vengeful. It was too late for the 5 Nirvana realm martial artists to stop now. They could only fight desperately. Kill! Let's fight him. He's just one person. Even if he's extraordinary, what can he do? Yes, he's only at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm. It's already heaven-defying for him to cross the Transcendence and Nirvana realms to fight with us. But how many people can he deal with? He's already at his limit. He's just pretending to be tough. There's no need to be afraid of him. Rumble! Clang! 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 2 students from the Divine Firmament Academy cast thunder arts at the same time. One formed a thunder tiger, and the other formed a thunder dragon. The roars of the tiger and dragon were louder than the roars of thunder, shaking the heavens and the earth. The 3 students from the Sky Sword Academy released sharp and majestic sword chi that filled the sky. As the tips of their swords trembled, the rolling sword chi seemed to turn into rivers of swords. They gathered together and formed an even more vast river of swords, which rushed toward Chu Yang. Lightning, dragons, tigers, and a long river of sword chi formed into a monstrous might that covered the heavens and the earth. It was like 2 armies had converged, and it carried supreme divine might as it directly charged forward with the might of sweeping through everything. Everywhere it passed, it flattened and destroyed everything. Such a scene caused the scalps of the spectating Nirvana Realm students to go numb. They were able to deal with one of them, but it was utterly impossible to deal with the joint attack of 5 Nirvana Realm martial artists of the same cultivation. Chu Yang chuckled. His chuckle wasn't loud, but it seemed to drown out the thunderous roar. It was clearly transmitted into everyone's ears. It was extremely mocking. His hands still had no intention of letting go of Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. If he wanted to win against these guys, he had to be happy, right? Especially now, he was very unhappy. He needed to vent. When the 2 enormous attacks were about to reach him, Chu Yang let out a long breath of turbid air. It was as if he had spat out all the anger and killing intent in his heart, forming a white mist. The white mist was so weak in front of the lightning, dragons, tigers, and majestic and fierce river of swords. It was like a wisp of white mist in the morning sun, and a few rays of sunlight could annihilate them. However, what was inconceivable was that this kind of white mist was actually blown away the moment it came into contact with the dragons, tigers, lightning, and mighty river of swords. Yes, blown away. It was simply blown away in an inconceivable manner. It was as if a gentle breeze had extinguished the flames of the 800-li mountain. It was simply unbelievable and stupefying. In an instant, the eyes of the 5 Nirvana Realm students bulged out. Their eyes were like dead fish, and their entire bodies were fixed in place like 2 human statues. They couldn't move at all, as if they were fixed in place by a great force. Chapter 1857. What an amazing thunder method! It's definitely not inferior to mine, and even far surpasses mine. Su Yiling's delicate body trembled, and her beautiful eyes were full of astonishment. It was not difficult for her to understand that this was the restraint of the thunder method rules. Chu Yang's thunder method rules were completely incomparable to the 2 students of the Divine Firmament Academy. It was like the difference between a dragon and an insect. Therefore, if the dragon only yawned, the insect's all-out attack would only be a joke. Feng Polong and Zhang Jian's hearts also trembled. They also noticed that Chu Yang's comprehension of the sword principle was profound and terrifying, far beyond their imagination. The pervasive sword chi disappeared in an instant, and the violent thunder was blown away like dust. Many people reacted and were secretly speechless. This Chu Yang is really terrifying. No wonder no one can control him in the Sky Academy despite his overwhelming power. He's only at the 9th level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm, but his comprehension of the rules is far beyond that of the Nirvana Realm. If we're deceived by his cultivation and look down on him, we won't even know how we're going to die. This Chu Yang may really be Eastern Wilderness 002. It seems that the joint competition of the 6 academies this time is completely different from the usual. Such a terrifying person has actually appeared. Except for the students of the Sky Academy, who were not very affected by this, the students of the other 5 academies deeply remembered Chu Yang's face at this moment. They remembered Chu Yang as a person. Their hearts were surging like stormy waves, and they could not calm down for a long time. I'll invite the 5 of you to order too. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed at the 5 people. Immediately, the students of the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It's coming, it's coming, the most exciting part will be played soon. The 5 people retreated in horror. They had never expected that the joint attack of the 5 people would be so weak. They were actually so weak. In front of the wild dog, they were as weak as porcelain dolls. Go. The 5 people were completely terrified. They directly left Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming and fled in different directions. I'm asking you to order, not punishing you to run. Rumble. Chu Yang's mind stirred, and 2 streams of thunder and lightning power blasted into Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's bodies. Immediately, the 2 of them screamed miserably, and were thrown away by Chu Yang. They rolled on the ground in pain. However, after being struck by the lightning, the 2 of them were not charred black, and there was no lightning on their bodies. Only from their 7 orifices black smoke came out, bringing with it the smell of burnt meat. Clearly, their insides were already charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chu Yang was like a flying divine sword. The void was like a piece of paper. As he flew, it seemed to be constantly being cut. The 5 Nirvana realm martial artists didn't even have the chance to escape. They were all suppressed by him, and then controlled by the projectile lines and directly brought back. These 5 people swayed in the air like 5 fish that Chu Yang had bought from the fisherman. Bang! Chu Yang threw them together with Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming and said with a smile, "Now, can I invite you to order seriously? Chu Hang, you bastard, can't you leave some drama for this divine bird?" Good, this divine bird is also fighting to the death. The parrot's angry voice attracted everyone's attention, and they were immediately stunned. However, there was no fighting to the death. The damn bird was imitating a human, lying on its back in the air, and its 2 bird legs were crossed like a human's. It was extremely leisurely. On the other side, there were more than 10 students from the Divine Firmament Academy and the Sky Sword Academy opposite it. They were each fighting with a colorful version of themselves, and it was very lively. Such a situation shocked many people. Compared to Chu Yang's means, the means of this damned bird made them even more shocked. What kind of magical power is this? Chapter 1858. Waha! The parrot finally got the same treatment as Chu Yang. It immediately jumped up from its lying position. Its 2 wings were like human hands behind its back, and its 2 legs were like a bird. It started to stride forward like 5 or 6 people. It held its head high and said narcissistically, "This is me, a divine bird, a godly divine bird. All the birds in the world are bright, but I am me, a different kind of firework. Please remember this scene." It also sang the song that Chu Yang had once sung, "How lonely it is to be invincible. My loneliness, who can understand me? How empty it is to be invincible. My loneliness, endless loneliness." Ha ha! Bursts of laughter rang out instantly. Of course, it was the people of the Sky Academy, while the 5 academies were still in a daze and adapting to the situation. It definitely required a process of adaptation, or at least a process of speechlessness. After all, it was a parrot who claimed to be invincible but lonely, invincible but empty. Especially this parrot, its behavior was very funny at the moment. "I've waited for 1,000 years, I've waited for 1,000 years." The song rang out again, and in an instant, all eyes were fixed on Chu Yang. Ha ha! The people of the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It began. Shameless Chu finally began to play tricks. Therefore, they all began to concentrate. After all, it was not easy to meet such a person, and they even felt a little nostalgic. The parrot was furious, but it could not change the fact that Chu Yang was still singing loudly with his orchid fingers raised. "I've waited for 1,000 years, I have no regrets." Although Chu Yang's state of mind was not suitable for making jokes at the moment, he still did it. At this moment, he did not need to use a close-up lens to magnify the sorrow and worry in his heart, which would make him feel that everything was difficult. At some point, the state of mind was more important. Only when he was in the best state could he make the most correct and wisest judgment. Now, Chu Yang felt that he needed to laugh. Who was the one who said that invincibility would never change? Just for this one sentence, aha, even if my intestines are broken, I will not complain. The parrot finally understood that Chu Hang was saying that its invincibility would only come once in 1,000 years. It immediately jumped up and cursed, "Chu Hang, you bastard, you actually changed the lyrics of such a good song. Don't you have a conscience? This is so boring. Immediately change this divine bird back, or this divine bird will go crazy." Chu Yang obeyed and said to Shangguan Lan affectionately, "I have no regrets waiting for you for 1,000 years. Who was it that said, 'Love me will never change'? Just for this sentence, aha, even if my intestines are broken, I will not complain." The red bird on Shangguan Lan's shoulder immediately shouted, "Little sheep, sing Invincible for me." The parrot anxiously said, "Chu Hang, these lyrics are so affectionate. You must continue." At the request of the parrot and the red bird, Chu Yang easily switched between the two, which made the two birds stunned. It could be done like this. Shangguan Lan was not angry this time. Instead, her heart was full of tenderness. "Brother sheep, are you such a person? Even if you are worried about your big brother, do you still have to smile like this on your face?" Ha! This time, not only the people of the Sky Academy, but also the people of the 5 great academies were all laughing crazily. Even Su Yiling was convulsing with laughter. Feng Polong also laughed involuntarily. Even Zhang Jian, who looked like a dead person, unconsciously showed a smile on his pale face. Among the people present, there were many geniuses of the 6 great academies, and even many holy disciples. They were either laughing or looking very strange. To be exact, this was really a rare sight. Chapter 1859. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as Chu Yang finished, the parrot knocked down the dozen or so Transcendence Realm cultivators and threw them together with Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. It flapped its wings and said, "Please order." Of course, Chu Yang also spoke. He and the parrot had a tacit understanding. Such tacit understanding made the crowd burst into laughter, especially the students of the Sky Academy. They were so happy that they began to make guesses. There are 5 packages. What do you think they are? I'm really curious. It's really too difficult to know the contents of the 5 packages. How can ordinary people imagine the imagination of Shameless Chu and that stupid bird? I guess the first package must be to strip them naked and hang them up to dry. How is this not strange and shocking? I want to protest. I want to see something new. Immediately, many people echoed and shouted, "Shameless Chu, we want to see something new, we want to see something new." Chu Yang hadn't started yet, but the students of the Sky Academy had already made such a fuss. The students of the 5 academies really found it incredible. It seemed that Shameless Chu was the public enemy, but why was the atmosphere so strange? Could it be that there was something magical in Chu Yang's package? Many people's curiosity had been aroused, and they were waiting to see how Chu Yang would torture them. They thought that Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming would be miserable, but few people sympathized with them. Whether they were stupid or not, Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming should never be the first to eat crabs. After all, a person's name was like a tree's shadow. After all, Chu Yang's reputation was out there. He might even be Eastern Wasteland 002, whose might shook the entire Eastern continent. How could these two dare to be so arrogant in front of such a person? However, Su Yiling and Feng Polong couldn't laugh. After all, this was related to the Heaven Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy. However, they couldn't say anything because Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming were too arrogant. They couldn't find a reason to plead for mercy. "Wild dog, what can you do to us? According to the rules of the 6 academies combined tournament, no one is allowed to kill. Do you dare to touch us?" That's right. Other than stealing our points, what else can you do, wild dog? Su Yiling and Feng Polong, who originally wanted to ask for help from Chu Yang, suddenly heard Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's malicious words. They even recklessly provoked Chu Yang. They couldn't help but feel hatred and anger in their hearts. They gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. The two of them really did not understand. Were Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming really stupid, or were they pretending to be stupid? Did they really think that Chu Yang was easy to get along with? What about Bai Qinxing? What about Li Xingsan? These two people were strong enough in the Seven Wheels Demon region, but what happened in the end? Chu Yang had killed the two of them in front of the 6 great academies. In the end, he had even chased the dean of the 6 great academies away like a dog. There were rules in the 6 academies combined tournament, but could they be compared with the situation in the Seven Wheels Demon region at that time? How could such a trivial rule stump Chu Yang? How could Chu Yang put such a rule in his eyes? Rules were only for the weak. If Chu Yang was strong enough, the 6 great academies could only turn a blind eye. However, come on, wild dog. Wang Feiming pointed to his neck and continued to shout at Chu Yang, "Wild dog, aren't you very capable? Cut me here if you have the ability." Ha ha. Hu Wenguang even laughed mockingly. "Wild dog, we are provoking you. What can you do? At worst, you can break our bones and break our tendons. After lying in bed for half a year, we will be a hero again. Why would we be afraid of you? Haha, there's a good show to watch." The students of the Sky Academy were even more overjoyed. This time, the show that we haven't seen before can be completed. Chapter 1860. Then a student from the Sky Academy said, "Hey, heroes, you are in the Nirvana realm. Hurry up and use the Nirvana flame." Yes, hurry up and use the Nirvana flame. Maybe you can turn the tables later. Exactly. You two extraordinary heroes, I admire your wisdom and backbone to the extreme. Use the flames of Nirvana and you'll surely be able to turn defeat into victory. These people from the Sky Academy were obviously waiting to watch the fun. The people from the 5 academies were confused and felt even weirder. Logically speaking, Chu Yang really didn't have much choice but to beat Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming up. This was the limit. The rules of the joint competition between the 6 academies were there, and the patrol team had probably noticed this. However, the reaction of the people from the Sky Academy was obviously not good yet. Many people from the 5 academies even found that the female students from the Sky Academy had turned around inexplicably. On the other side, Chu Yang's peerless beauty had also left without a sound. What the hell? What is Chu Yang going to do? For a moment, the people from the 5 academies were very confused. Bang, bang, bang. At this time, muffled sounds were heard again and again. When they noticed the lousy bird, it instantly transformed into a furious little bird as it madly attacked Hu Wenguang, Wang Feiming, and the others. Hu Wenguang and the others were beaten to the point that they could only lie on the ground and groan, and were completely unable to use Nirvana flames. Haha, this damn bird is really clever. The people from the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It's so clever. You have to see what kind of bird it is. The parrot was very proud and said proudly to the people from the Sky Academy, "That's for sure. I'm the most dazzling one today." The people from the Sky Academy laughed crazily. This damn bird was obviously afraid that Chu Hang would show his power again and make it dim. After all, this was the first time in 1,000 years that it had been waiting for such a show of power. "Hey!" The parrot began to show off and said to Hu Wenguang and others, "Since you are all silent, it's obvious that you have a big appetite. You must have ordered all 5 sets. As a benevolent divine bird, I will satisfy you." The members of the Sky Academy were satisfied with his words because the 5 sets were about to appear. However, they were a little worried about letting this lousy bird preside over the event. A miserable shriek could be heard as the parrot's magical power transformed into a dozen or so hands, which grabbed onto Hu Wenguang's hair and began to pull it out. In the blink of an eye, Hu Wenguang's bald head was covered with blood. Tease this divine bird again! How arrogant! Don't be arrogant in front of this divine bird! The parrot let loose a torrent of abuse, and clenched its claws into fists. The second set is here, and I'll return your beautiful fist. Bang bang bang! Hu Wenguang's mouth was crooked, his nose was broken, and his eyeballs popped out. His entire face was deformed and badly mangled. He howled miserably on the ground. At the side, Wang Feiming and the others felt their scalps go numb. This damned bird was too ruthless. Damned bird, kill me if you dare. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Hu Wenguang threatened like a ferocious ghost. However, as soon as his voice came out, he was shocked to find that the people of the Sky Academy were all roaring at him. Hu, your face is badly mangled, and so is your brain. Shut up. Idiot, shut up immediately. You're not provoking that damned bird. If you dare, shout at Chu Hang. Divine bird, calling divine bird. Your performance is not wonderful. We're not satisfied. Not to mention Hu Wenguang, even Wang Feiming and the others were stunned. They were the victims. Why didn't they get any sympathy? The members of the 5 academies were also dumbfounded. What's wrong with the Sky Academy? Are they crazy? Chapter 1861. Rip, rip, rip. In an instant, under the stunned gazes of many people from the 5 academies, Hu Wenguang turned into a white pig and was then hung up. In the end, everyone finally understood what the Sky Academy meant by stripping, pulling out, and hanging up to dry. It turned out that this was it. Ah! The woman's high-pitched scream also made them realize why the female students of the Sky Academy had just turned around. It turned out that this damn bird was a habitual offender and had always been so despicable. In this way, even if Hu Wenguang lay in bed for half a year, he would not be able to become a hero, but he could become a white pig and be remembered by people for a lifetime. He would be too ashamed to see others. Damn bird, please stop immediately. Divine bird, I beg you, can you let the professionals do it? How can the divine bird use such a good ingredient? Alright, the food you cook has to be edible, right? After hearing the voice of the Sky Academy, the people from the 5 academies immediately understood the mystery again. It turned out that Chu Yang was the professional. He was the ancestor, he was the most primitive evil. Ow, the parrot was very hurt. It directly used its magic power to strip Wang Feiming and the others and hung them up to dry. The Sky Academy was full of curses. Everything was really ruined by this damn bird. Little bitch, you have to do it step by step. You can't do it so fiercely all of a sudden. Scammer Chu, you shut up for this divine bird. Today is this divine bird's special day. If you dare to make a move, this divine bird will immediately fall out with you. We won't be brothers anymore. The parrot felt ashamed and became brave. It poked Hu Wenguang, Wang Feiming, and the others with its wings and ordered, You and you. You said you're a tortoise. You said you're a tortoise. You said you're a dog. You said you're a tortoise, and a dog. There was no novelty at all. The people of the Sky Academy protested and shouted for someone else. In the midst of the noise, a roar came from not far away like thunder. Stop, hurry up and stop. How dare you? The inspection team is here. How dare you act rashly? You're guilty. A thunderous roar shook the crowd and silenced the clamor. Of course, everyone knew who the patrol team was. Immediately, everyone's gazes focused on the 6 people who were flying through the sky. They were flying toward them at high speed. The wind howled and sonic booms rang out. In the blink of an eye, the 6 of them appeared in the field. It was as if 6 mountains had fallen, and they immediately suppressed everything. The 6 of them were all 56 years old. They were all dressed differently and had the unique symbol of the 6 great academies on them. The Sky Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Sky Sword Academy, Sky Demon Academy, Star Academy, and Myriad Academy all had one member of the patrol team. This was to ensure the fairness of the patrol team. All 6 of them were at least at the Death Spirit Realm, with more of them being at the Life Spirit Realm. The inspection team only targeted the students of the Inner Yard and the Elite Yard, not including the Holy Disciples. Therefore, such strength was enough. Chu Yang sized up these 6 old men. His eyes flickered incessantly. To most people, there was still a certain degree of fairness in front of the inspection team, but he probably didn't. At least, that was what he thought at the moment. As soon as the 6 old men saw Hu Wenguang, Wang Feiming, and the others, they immediately flared up. Like 6 awakened beasts, they burst out with great majesty, oppressing people to the point of suffocation. Chapter 1862. Sure enough. Chu Yang smiled in his heart. The 6 great academies are united. An old man also said angrily, "It's normal to have a fight, but how can you humiliate people to such an extent?" This old man was from the Heaven Sword Academy. His words were reasonable, but Chu Yang also had his own reasons. If they regarded him as a fellow disciple or a fellow disciple, did he need to do that? Or would such a thing happen? Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming knew that he might be the Eastern Wilderness 002, but they still dared to clamor and humiliate him. If he didn't make an example of them, how many people would come to make trouble for him? He didn't want to do that, but he had to. Chu Yang didn't say anything. He looked down and waited to see how they would deal with it. "Brother Feng is right," the old man from the Sky Academy said. Chu Yang didn't know this person, but he heard the old man say, "Such behavior destroys the unity of the 6 great academies. It's absolutely intolerable. We must punish them severely." After hearing this, Chu Yang roughly knew the result. It's just the beginning, but they've already made such a big fuss. They must be severely punished to warn others. This can't be allowed to continue. There must be a limit to the fight. The rest of the old men also expressed their attitude. Chu Yang listened to everything, and could only chuckle in response. Without knowing what had happened, the 6 people directly made a judgment. As for the so-called, "This can't be allowed to continue," and "There must be a limit to the fight," he despised them even more. The 6 great academies had always followed the law of the jungle, which was vividly reflected in the various tests of the Sky Academy. Therefore, he was sure that if it was not him, but another person, the result would definitely not be like this. But you. In an instant, 6 pairs of sharp eyes looked over with incomparable sharpness. They were like 10 divine swords piercing straight towards Chu Yang. Boundless oppressive aura, like mountains, like seas, like abysses, also pressed down together. In an instant, it was as if 6 heavens were pressing down on him. Rumble. The void rumbled as if it had turned into a vast ocean. The void surged like seawater. The parrot couldn't withstand the pressure, and leaned toward Chu Yang. Perhaps Chu Yang was the only one who could remain unaffected by such pressure. If it was anyone else at the 9th level of the soul amalgamation realm, they would have already knelt on the ground, shivering and sweating profusely. They might have even been crushed to death by the pressure. His body glowed with a radiant light. It seemed as if a barrier had formed around the parrot, so that it wouldn't be affected in the slightest. In the Legion of Gods, Chu Yang's fleshly body had reached godly ascension, which meant that the parrot's divine ability hadn't had much of an effect on him. How could the pressure of a life and death expert possibly do anything to him? In addition, his psyche had also condensed into a spiritual godhead. Perhaps only the pressure of a saint could threaten him. Chu Yang chuckled again. When his laughter entered the ears of many people, They were all shocked. At this time, this Chu Yang could still laugh. How dare you? What are you laughing at? How dare you be so arrogant in front of us? It seems that we can't spare you. The 6 old men were not only shocked, but also furious. Their voices became even sharper. Every word was like thunder. Every word was directed at Chu Yang's mind. They wanted to attack and crush Chu Yang's mind. Swish. Chapter 1863. Ha ha! Chu Yang's signature chuckle rang out once again. Many people's hearts almost skipped a beat. His guts were a bit too big, wasn't it? Chu Yang didn't wait for the 6 old men to make trouble again. Instead, he opened his mouth and said, I thought that I would be able to hear a sentence like, what else do you have to say for yourself? Unfortunately, I don't even have such an honor. With just one sentence, everyone was violently shaken. Yes, even if he was a criminal, he would have a chance to explain himself if he was caught red-handed. How could he be like Chu Yang, who didn't even have a chance to explain himself? Chu Yang realized that the 6 old men in the inspection team didn't feel any shame because of his word. They didn't even have any emotional fluctuations. He was surprised, but he didn't want to think too much about it. He continued to mock them. I'm old. I'm talking about the 6 of you who are about to die. Can you not be so anxious and calm down? His words were really impolite. Wow. The crowd finally burst into an uproar. The inspection team was too much, but Chu Yang wasn't easy to deal with either. There were so many students in the 6 great academies. Which one of them dared to say such words? He's indeed a barbarian. He doesn't know the most basic etiquette. Bestial instincts exist. It's useless to talk to him. Only sticks are useful to beasts. The inspection team spoke again, which shocked many people. How could an elder say such undignified words? Ha ha! Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh loudly. The discrimination between the East Continent and the Eastern Wilderness was really deep. He thought the contempt of the East Continent was more or less the same. He exploded. He pointed his finger at his nose and said directly, Come on, 6 old dogs. Try to touch me. I'll teach you how to behave on behalf of your parents. It wasn't over yet. Speaking of which, your parents really neglected their duties. They actually let you 6 disgusting things out. It's one thing for you to do evil in the human world, but you actually specialize in making people vomit. They really deserve to die. I think they must have died very miserably. In the end, they have to bear the blame. How pitiful. Sigh, they're really wronged. They actually gave birth to you. You bloody weirdos. You. The 6 members of the inspection team were so angry that their faces turned green. They were already so old, yet they were still being insulted like this. Waha! The parrot stepped in at the right time. He laughed wildly. 6 old dogs, this divine bird really admires your wisdom and courage. You even dared to scold Chu Hang. Hee, are you happy now? Damn it. Feathered beast, how dare you be so presumptuous? The 6 old men were fuming with anger. Their beards and eyebrows were like swords, as if they had already been unsheathed. Their gazes were extremely fierce, as if they wished they could eat the parrot alive on the spot. Their aged bodies were also trembling with anger. They no longer had the posture they had a moment ago, the dignified and mighty life and death saber, arrogant and overbearing. Oh hey, you're so polite. I'm so scared. As soon as the parrot finished, Chu Yang appeared. He was extremely sarcastic. Beast, do you really think we don't dare to kill you? Oh hey! The parrot screamed again. 6 old dogs, are you under the pressure of ghosts? Or did someone tie up your old hands and legs? Didn't Chu Hang say that you can try to touch him? You're so arrogant. Why don't you try to touch him? The man and the parrot didn't give the 6 old men any face. They didn't even need to talk about giving them a way out. They directly attacked them to death. Their words were ear-piercing and heart-wrenching. None of their words were without thorns. Chapter 1864. His courage is commendable, but his wisdom is limited. Many students of the Sky Academy didn't feel much about this scene, and they only felt contempt for the 6 old men. These 6 old men are probably tired of living too comfortably and want to vent their anger. They're cursing Shameless Chew. He's a genius, a rare peerless genius. That's right. Of all the people to bicker with, they chose Shameless Chew. I can only mourn for those 6 old men. They're cursing Shameless Chew as a beast? I admire them, I really admire them. In Shameless Chew's words, my respect for these 6 old men is endless like a torrential river, like the ups and downs of mountains, endless. Most of the people of the Sky Academy were sarcastic. It wasn't that they looked down on the 6 old men of the inspection team, but they were very stupid, naive, and innocent if they wanted to scare Shameless Chew. When he was in the Sky Academy, Shameless Chew even dared to confront the Sage Master, so why wouldn't he dare to provoke a mere inspection team? 6 old dogs, do it? Waiting is torturous. How long do you want me to wait? Hurry up and let me die. Chu Yang's sarcastic words directly embarrassed the 6 old men of the inspection team. They were so angry that their bones seemed to be shaking and cracking, but none of them dared to do anything. Because of the thunder tribulation. The arrogant little beast in front of them relied on the thunder tribulation. If they did anything, they would be doomed once the little beast triggered the thunder tribulation. Only when one reached the sage level could he avoid the thunder tribulation even if he was involved in others. However, even a sage would be punished by the thunder tribulation if he dared to attack someone who was going through the tribulation. None of the 6 old men of the inspection team had reached the sage level, so once they were involved in the little beast's thunder tribulation, the consequences were simply unimaginable. Let's go. The 6 old men didn't want to stay any longer and were about to leave. During the whole process they seemed to be really here to be bullied. Chu Yang felt that something was wrong. Go, he said. Did I allow you to go? In an instant, the bodies of the 6 old men stiffened, and a buzzing sound rang out in everyone's mind. Even at this stage, Chu Yang still felt that it was not enough. It was really shocking. Who would have thought that Chu Yang would be so aggressive in the end? After the inspection team compromised, they couldn't even retreat unscathed. The 6 old men's faces turned red, and their eyes were filled with anger. They wanted to raise their hands and slap the little bastard to death, but they raised their hands and put them down again. They kept repeating that small action. What do you want? The sound was the sound of gnashing teeth, the sound of gnashing teeth. What do you want? Chu Yang directly retorted. He sneered in his heart and said, This marshal already has enough questions in his heart. After throwing such a big question at this marshal, you want to leave just like that? Is there such a simple thing in this world? What exactly do you want? If that's the case, you want me to continue thinking, right? Chu Yang's voice turned cold. Then, I'll give you a direct answer. Kneel down. Boom. After everyone heard this, they immediately exploded. They couldn't believe that Chu Yang actually wanted the 6 old men of the inspection team to kneel down. The prestige of the inspection team had been completely lost because of Chu Yang's challenge. If they kneeled down again, what prestige would they have left? How could they convince the masses? Swoosh. Feng Polong, Su Yiling, Zhang Jian, and the rest, the geniuses of the 6 great academies, couldn't help but change their expressions. Chu Yang actually wanted to go to such a step. He wanted to go all out and completely fall out with the 6 great academies. Why did it have to be like this? Chapter 1866. Bang, bang, bang. This was the sound of the 6 members of the inspection team kneeling down. No one knew how they felt when they knelt down, and no one knew how they felt when they left. It was definitely not a good feeling. After all, they were people who were about to die of old age, and they had to kneel down to a young cub. It would be strange if they were in a good mood. No one could see the expressions of the 6 people at that time because when they knelt down, their heads were very, very low, so low that they seemed to have drilled into the earth's crust. They came with endless dignity, but in the end they left with endless shame. They had experienced both extremes, and it could be said that they had experienced both ice and fire. That sour feeling was something that could not be described by those who had not experienced it before. People also felt that it was very strange. Then, they realized the reason for the strangeness. That guy called Chu Yang had still completely offended the 6 old men. In their lifetime, the biggest wish of these 6 people was to kill Chu Yang. Many people were convinced of this, and so was Chu Yang. His personality needed to be changed and polished, but this definitely did not prove that he cared. He cared about many things, but no matter what, these 6 old men were definitely not among the things he cared about. Chu Yang left with Shangguan Lan and the parrot, leaving behind a clamor that overshadowed the 6 academies' joint competition and everything else. What else could be more shocking than what happened today? At least, not so far. Su Yiling's mood was very complicated. She felt that something big had happened, something very big, so big that it was unimaginable. She heard that a woman's intuition was more accurate than a man's. In the past, she liked her intuition very much, but now, she hated it very much. If such a premonition happened, she would not be able to bear it. Feng Polong did not say anything, and Zhang Jian seemed to be completely dead. Feng Polong was sure that Chu Yang would definitely make a big move after this, and Zhang Jian's perception of this was even clearer than Feng Polong's. They all smelled the smell of blood. Storm's footsteps were getting closer and closer. They could already hear the sound of Storm's footsteps. After leaving the people's sight, Chu Yang had a smile on his face and was telling jokes. He wouldn't show an unhappy expression even if he was beaten to death. This made Shangguan Lan speechless for a long time. His own elder brother had been captured and was very likely to be killed. A person who could still laugh was either heartless or heartless. However, Chu Yang didn't seem to be such a person. "Brother Goat, don't you think it's a little weird today?" Shangguan Lan was right beside Chu Yang, very close to him. He could clearly smell the fragrance on her body, hear her breathing, and even hear her heart, so much so that he felt that her heart was very close to him. Chu Yang was still smiling. He nodded. Naturally, he knew that there was something strange going on today. Whether it was Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming or the patrol team, the former seemed to be looking for a beating, while the latter seemed to be looking for humiliation. How could it not be strange? "Brother Goat, I mean," Shangguan Lan suddenly said. "Brother Goat, everything you've done today seems to be in line with some people's wishes." Chu Yang was still smiling at first, but all of a sudden, his mind buzzed. His mind went blank in an instant and he seemed to be frozen. The group of people was flying at an extremely fast speed when Chu Yang suddenly stopped at this moment. Shangguan Lan looked at Chu Yang's stunned expression and knew that she didn't need to say anything more because she knew that there was no need to say anything else. Chu Yang had completely understood. She also understood that men were very prideful. If she was smarter than her man, it would seem a little bad, even if her man was an unconventional person. Chapter 1867. Of course, she also believed that there were not that many fools in this world, so it was not normal for Chu Yang to meet fools. Chu Yang was already worthy of some people's research, and someone must have thoroughly studied Chu Yang's temperament and hobbies, just like now. Especially when Chu Yang was unprepared, it was even easier for him to be schemed against. At this moment, Chu Yang was very clear that he had been fooled, completely fooled. His every reaction should have been calculated by the other party. The things that he didn't think through before, he suddenly understood them all. Why did it have to be Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming, these two small fries, who brought people to cause trouble? Why did the 6 people of the inspection team all look like 6 big fools? Chu Yang had thought it through. The other party had achieved their goal with the lowest cost. Fortunately, I haven't taken action yet. The only fortunate thing was that Chu Yang originally had a plan, but he had not had time to take action. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, this was a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, the enemy would have laughed and treated him as a complete fool. I can only wait for Kuan Kuan to come back and make plans. Chu Yang decided to do nothing for the time being. Doing nothing did not necessarily mean that he would not make mistakes, but at least he could make fewer mistakes. At this moment, he was in the dark. In a state where he did not understand anything, making fewer mistakes was an acceptable choice. After every incident was over, the follow-up would definitely follow. Before a new incident happened, there would always be some people who needed to understand the cause and vent the anger in their hearts. Han Zhong, after the inspection team had knelt down, had a lot of things that he did not understand, which made him very unhappy. Han Zhong was only 6 feet 6, which was definitely not considered tall, but he looked 6 feet 9 or even taller, because his body was well groomed. His clothes might not be very gorgeous, but they were definitely the most fitting. His shoes were definitely not the best, but the shoes on his feet were definitely suitable for his feet. He thought that he was the best tailor and the best shoemaker. He was very good at this aspect, but how could he compare to him? This was what he had always been proud of. Perhaps he wasn't a qualified servant, but he was definitely the most loyal servant. He definitely lived up to the word loyal in his name. Han Zhong was 33 years old this year. There was not a trace of fat on his body. His body was as young as the young students of the 6 great academies. His body was still full of vitality. He liked married women the most. Yesterday, he had successfully made love with a noble lady. If he wanted to do it again today, it would definitely not be a problem. For a man like him at his age, this kind of thing seemed to be very easy. However, he was not in the mood today because his heart was filled with anger. At this moment, he was angrily going to meet a person, a bastard whose leg had been cut off and who had never eaten fish since he was 10 years old. That bastard was in the Middle Sky mountain range, in an extremely secluded valley. Han Zhong entered the canyon and saw a person playing chess. A person who was playing chess with himself. This person placed his chess pieces very softly, so gentle that there was not a trace of sound. I am very ugly, but I am very gentle. Such a sentence was definitely very suitable to describe the person in front of him. Chapter 1868. Cough, cough, cough. In the quiet canyon, a few coughs came from this person from time to time. Yi as in yellow leaves, stupid as in stupid. This person was called Yiyu. Because he was like a fish, he would never eat fish, even if he was beaten to death. His legs were definitely not cut off because he did not eat fish. It was said that they were cut off by a person surnamed Shu. Yiyu seemed to have expected Han Zhong to come, so he did not even raise his head. He just played chess with himself. Do I need an explanation? Han Zhong was originally very angry, but for some reason, when he saw Yiyu, he seemed to be unable to get angry. Explanation? Yiyu chuckled. What do I need to explain to you? When he spoke, Yiyu seemed to have been playing chess with him wholeheartedly, so much so that people misunderstood that the person who had just spoken was not him at all. You don't need to explain to me, but you need to explain to young master. Han Zhong's anger emerged again, like a volcanic eruption, uncontrollable. Yiyu finally stopped playing chess. With his pockmarked face, he looked at Han Zhong with disdain. It's because of idiots like you that young master specifically told you that you don't need to ask. You just need to do as he says. Now I also think that his words are very reasonable. At least in this way we don't have to waste so much time talking. In that case, you don't want to say anything, right? Han Zhong sneered. No. Yi Yu shook his head calmly. If I don't say anything, not only will it be more troublesome, but it will also waste more time because you're not only stupid, but also too curious. Talking to such a person would definitely not be pleasant. Han Zhong could only endure it. He wasn't trying to flirt with some stupid or impatient woman, but he was talking to a bastard. In particular, it was not easy for this bastard to explain to him. You want to ask why we wasted Hu Wenguang and Weng Faming because they're worthless, right? Before Han Zhong could ask, Yi Yu had already spoken, and this question happened to be Han Zhong's first question. That's right. I've heard of fishing. How can we fish without bait? Hu Wenguang and Weng Faming are bait. What about young master? Han Zhong retorted. In order to stop Feng Polong, Zhang Jian has already appeared. It's very easy to find young master from Zhang Jian. What do you think? Hee hee. Yi Yu chuckled again. Let me think about it. How can I explain it in words that you can understand? He felt a headache coming on and said, How about this? Even if young master is exposed now, will people still suspect young master when something even more shocking happens? Han Zhong understood what he meant. On the battlefield, the soldiers were usually the first to die. Young master was a soldier now. Who would suspect a soldier for something done by a general or marshal? His young master had been exposed too quickly and too stupidly. This was also the best part. Han Zhong's anger had completely disappeared. This was his greatest anger, but he had just realized the mystery behind it. Yi Yu had removed the young master from suspicion early on, so he couldn't help but admire Yi Yu. The result of the inspection team seems to be the best result? Han Zhong couldn't help but laugh. As long as he thought about the 6 old men from the 6 great academies having to kneel down to a young brat, he wanted to laugh. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the message they wanted to convey had already been sent out. The holy disciples of the 6 great academies should all know that Chu Yang was their biggest threat. Otherwise, if Chu Yang went to fight with them for the holy fetus while enduring the thunder tribulation, they would also suffer losses. Chapter 1869. Of course it's for the best. Yi Yu sneered. Chu Yang forced them into a dead end. He also forced himself into a dead end. I think he will definitely jump up and do something big. Han Zhong agreed with this and his smile became even brighter. In this way, it would be easier for them to carry out their plan. That was because Chu Yang would still attract all the attention. What do I need to do now? You don't need to do anything. None of us need to do anything. Bide our time and see how Chu Yang reacts first. What if he doesn't do anything? Han Zhong mentioned this possibility because Chu Yang had already done enough for today. So, he should be dormant for a period of time. Ha! Yi Yu chuckled again. If he didn't do anything, then he must have sensed something. He might have even sensed that he had turned into a fish and was pulled ashore by someone. Do you think he would be happy? Han Zhong couldn't understand Yi Yu's joy and said in surprise, He can sense it? Yi Yu sneered again. There were always some people who treated others as fools, especially after they had succeeded. Han Zhong in front of him was the best example. Of course, Yi Yu used to be such a person, but he had to pay a heavy price. Because of this, his 2 legs were chopped off, and he was even told that all schemes and tricks were useless in the face of absolute strength. He hoped that he would never make such a mistake again in his life, but he knew very well that he would definitely make it again. Because he was a human. Humans, this kind of creature, all had deep-rooted bad habit. So who dared to say that they could completely get rid of this bad habit? Han Zhong, I don't care what you do in the future. After mocking himself for a while, Yi Yu suddenly laughed coldly and said in a sinister voice, But when you are under my command, you better remember this. There is no such thing as a fool in this world, and if there is a fool in this world, then that person must be you. After he finished speaking, Yi Yu's eyes became even more malicious. He asked coldly, "Do you understand now? If you ruin my plan because of your stupidity, even if young master protects you, I will kill you bit by bit for 7 days and 7 nights. For a martial artist like you, such an aristocratic family definitely hasn't existed for a long time. You definitely haven't died yet." Han Zhong couldn't help but shiver. Yi Yu's icy voice seemed to drill into his bones, freezing his marrow and breaking his bones. His entire body was covered in ice and his heart clenched. At this moment, to him, Yi Yu was more of a devil than a devil. He was a madman, a complete and utter madman, a pervert. I understand. Not only did Han Zhong understand Yi Yu's words, he also understood Yi Yu's hatred. To have both of his legs chopped off by someone with Yi Yu's abnormal strength, what kind of hatred would that be? Whoever stopped Yi Yu from using the most vicious means to take revenge would immediately become his enemy. Han Zhong could offend anyone, but he definitely wouldn't want to offend such a lunatic and pervert. In the end, he left, leaving that extremely quiet canyon. Chapter 1870. This was a beautiful place. It wasn't a valley, nor was it a canyon. Instead, it was a wide open flat land halfway up the Middle Sky mountain range. There were no trees or weeds on the flat ground. There were only flowers. There were all kinds of flowers. They were colorful and enchanting. It was as if this was someone's flower field. Shangguanlan was more beautiful than the flowers, as if she was a flower fairy. Her beauty was the pinnacle of beauty, the most beautiful in the world. At least, that was what Chu Yang thought at this moment. However, Chu Yang was not looking at Shangguanlan. He was not appreciating this kind of beauty, nor was he intoxicated by it. He was doing something very uncouth, something that would spoil the fun. He pulled out all the beautiful flowers like weeds and then began to dig a hole. He dug a standard hole to put in a coffin or bury a dead person. It was absolutely suitable. The sky was clear blue, and the lake in front was like jade. The flowers were beautiful, and the people were beautiful. The fragrance of the flowers was coming in waves, and the butterflies were dancing in the air. Such a beautiful scenery. Anyone who saw such a beautiful scenery would probably want to beat him up if they saw him doing such a thing. Shangguanlan frowned. She liked flowers, but she absolutely did not like people to destroy them. The parrot's mind was in the shape of a question mark. It poked Shangguanlan with its wing. "Chu Hang, does your wife have a problem with you? Call her sister-in-law." Chu Yang emphasized. The parrot obeyed. "Sister-in-law, I think she wants to hit someone." The red bird had always thought that the parrot only objected because it objected, and it didn't care about anything else. However, it actually nodded and said, "Little sheep, are you digging a hole and burying yourself? Good mountains and good water, isn't this a good place to rest? If I could choose where to be buried, I would definitely choose here." Although Chu Yang opened his mouth to speak, he still continued to dig. He did not even look at the parrot and the red bird. "Chu Hang, leave behind your inheritance." The parrot felt that Chu Yang's inheritance was very important. It would definitely be a shocking amount of wealth. "I have a wife. Sister-in-law, I'm already prepared to leave you, but I'm still here trying to save you." "Little bitch, the person you call sister-in-law is your sister-in-law and not anyone else because she is the only one who is qualified to be your sister-in-law." The parrot finally couldn't help but roll its eyes. Chu Hang still didn't forget to flatter Shangguanlan at this time. He was really good at scheming. The bird was really inferior to him. "Why did you dig a hole? There has to be a reason, right?" It still didn't understand Chu Yang's inexplicable actions, so it added, "Because your name is Chu Hang, you have to dig a hole." Chu Yang smiled. "You didn't think that I was digging a hole, and the others probably didn't think that I was digging a hole either, right?" The parrot seemed to understand something, while Shangguanlan completely understood. Everyone had a certain way of thinking and behavior that had been thoroughly studied by others. Only by making changes could one get rid of the other's calculations. Chu Yang shuddered. He was thinking about how to be a completely different person from his previous self. It was just that his way of thinking was a bit strange. Soon, Shangguanlan found that her judgment was not completely correct. Chu Yang seemed to be not only digging a hole, but also a well, a tunnel, or even an underground palace. During this time, he was constantly setting up various array seals. Chapter 1871. Shangguanlan's divine sense could not probe at all. The formation set up by the formation seal completely blocked divine sense. Once divine sense broke in, it would be detected immediately. She could not help but laugh. Maybe Chu Yang did not know what he was doing at the moment. If he did not know himself, how could his opponent know? Of course, she also did not know what Chu Yang was going to do, but there must be a pair of eyes in the dark, watching Chu Yang at all times. At this moment, Chu Yang was equivalent to disappearing, and the opponent's mind would be blank for a while. Chu Heng digging a hole is right and proper. There's nothing to see. This divine bird will continue to cultivate. The day I come out of seclusion will definitely be earth-shattering. The parrot imitated Chu Yang's sloppy appearance. It looked very funny, and Shangguanlan could not help but laugh again. The cooperation between this broken bird and Chu Yang was really not an ordinary tacit understanding. It gave the people who were secretly observing a very good idea. Maybe Chu Yang dug the hole just to cultivate. Chu Yang did intend to cultivate. His spiritual energy had not completely transformed into magic power, and he wanted to completely improve this point. This was very easy to do. After all, in the world of the gods, once the godhood was formed, spiritual energy would completely transform into divine power. Therefore, it was not difficult for him to completely transform spiritual energy into magic power. But to do it perfectly and to the extreme, that was a bit difficult. Chu Yang liked to shock people, and he liked to say things that would not stop until he was shocked to death. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to cultivate magic power that would shock people. He dug until he reached the bottom of the lake, and then stopped. Not only did he stop digging, but all of Chu Yang's actions had already stopped. Blindly taking action would not have any benefit. He was waiting for the ice koan. According to the time, the ice koan should be back with its speed, but there was still no news of it until now. Chu Yang did not like to wait for people. He could only divert his attention and cultivate. Magic power, man's heaven and earth. Relying on one's realm, thunder was formed in the human body, and the spiritual energy was refined into magic power. He was already very familiar with this process. However, if he wanted his chi to be different, he had to take an unusual path. There were definitely not many unconventional paths. Otherwise, if everyone walked unconventional paths, everyone's magic power would be different from the rest. But in reality, there was not much difference in the essence and quality of the mana of most martial artists. In the beginning, Chu Yang didn't know what to do, but he soon had an idea: to use the thunder of heaven and earth to refine his own spiritual energy and turn it into mana. The biggest difference between him and most people was that the thunder that Chu Yang used to temper his spiritual energy wasn't the thunder in the human body, but the thunder of heaven and earth, the real thunder. Such a difference didn't seem like a big deal, but the heavenly soul world shouldn't have dared to do so. Chu Yang had two choices. First, he could draw the thunder of heaven and earth into his body and refine the spiritual energy into magic power. This was very dangerous. It required a perfect synchronization between the heaven and earth of the human body and the real heaven and earth, as if his own body was a part of the heaven and earth. The other choice was to use the heaven and earth as his own body. He could draw out the spiritual energy in his body and use the thunder of heaven and earth to refine it. The difficulty of such a refining method was that the spiritual energy should not be able to withstand the destruction of the real thunder and would be directly obliterated. Different refining methods would result in different amounts of magic power, and each method should have its own advantages and disadvantages. As for the specifics, Chu Yang had no way to know, but it was impossible for him to try it first. If it was in the past, he would have made a deduction first and only do it when he had absolute confidence. Now that he was completely schemed against by his secret enemy, he made a change. Thinking my ass, he had his eyes on two peerless beauties. Why should he be conflicted about which one to take? He could take both of them first. As for the later matters, he could talk about it later. It didn't matter if he was struck by lightning or cut into pieces by the two beauties. Those were all matters of the future. Chapter 1872. Rumble. Thunder clouds quickly formed in the sky. Soon after, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Rumbling thunder resounded across the entire land, causing the originally incomparably quiet Middle Sky mountain range to become a hot spot all of a sudden, as it suddenly became lively. At this moment, many people couldn't help but look at the thunder cloud in the sky. Some people were surprised, some people guessed, but most people didn't think much of it. There were so many people in the 6 great schools, plus the cultivators in the Zhongtian mountain range, who were searching for treasures and herbs, or training, as well as the monsters in the mountain range. As long as one of them was about to break through, there was nothing strange about the appearance of a thunder tribulation. The thunder tribulation quickly descended. It didn't seem like one person was going through the tribulation, but 2 people, in the same place. 2 thunder tribulations fell from the sky at the same time. The thunder tribulations blasted into the lake, passing through the entire lake and directly hitting Chu Yang at the bottom of the lake. In this process, although there was some loss of lightning, it was definitely not great. It was also very easy for Chu Yang to trigger the thunder tribulation. He was already at the stage of breaking through to the Dharma stage and could trigger the thunder tribulation at any time. The difference was that he only needed to use the thunder tribulation to refine his Dharma power and not to break through to the Dharma stage. This was like Chu Yang meeting 2 beautiful women on the street and flirting with them. But even if he did, he didn't necessarily want to have children with them. The process of using the thunder tribulation to refine spirit energy was not complicated. One was like heaven and earth as the blacksmith, the thunder tribulation as the hammer, and the spirit energy as the core of the iron. The other was like a treasure hunter, pulling the spirit energy that looked like a treasure to the other side and drilling into the deepest part of Chu Yang's energy reserve. The results seemed to be the same, as if they were all dead. The blacksmith, heaven and earth, seemed to have used too much force. When the thunder tribulation struck, Chu Yang's spirit energy was eliminated and completely dispersed into heaven and earth. In his body, after the thunder tribulation struck his energy reserve, it directly blasted a hole in it. Chu Yang realized that something had happened in an instant. However, before he could cry or even react in shock, he realized that the spiritual qi that had been scattered outside his body had already merged with the heaven and earth. At this moment, it was rapidly transforming and converging. At that moment, he felt as if all the spiritual energy in the world was his spiritual energy, his mana. He felt as if he was the heavens, the earth, all living beings, and all living things. A hole appeared in his qi. This was similar to when he used the heavenly transformation lightning tribulation to penetrate the barrier between the heavenly spirit world and the myriad God world, obtaining the origin of the 2 worlds. It was also similar to when the Genesis volcano erupted and the Genesis Chi appeared. What was born from his energy reserve was no longer spiritual energy, but magic power with layers upon layers of magic power. That kind of magic power structure was like his 100 grotto heavens, one wrapped around the other, endless. The magic power outside my body is the Dharma of the heavenly spirit world, and the magic power inside my body is the divine power of the myriad God world. Chu Yang instantly understood. The transformation of his magic power faintly coincided with the two systems of martial arts in his body. In other words, he accidentally found the missing child of his relative. It seems that a person can't be the same. If I go against my own nature and habits, maybe I can find a new me, a new possibility. The path of martial arts and the path of being human seem to coincide. The end of the path of martial arts might be the end of being human, and the two would eventually lead to the same destination. The thunder tribulation ended quickly. This process was incomparably fast. From what Chu Yang felt, it was really like the process of picking up a girl on the street. Get a girl's phone number, chat for a while, and then go their separate ways. His strength didn't improve substantially. For example, although he got a girl's phone number, he couldn't immediately get a fiancée, enter the hall of marriage, get married, and have children. However, there was such a possibility, a new beginning. Chapter 1873. I'm Marshal Chu, known as the most handsome man in the world. Calling little scum, little scum, little scum, please answer if you hear me. Chu Yang was in a very good mood. It was as if he had hit on a girl on the street, and that girl had become his girlfriend. Then, she would definitely become the mother of his child. Therefore, he wanted to convey his joy at the first opportunity. I'm a divine bird, the number one divine bird in the world. Calling Chu Hang, Chu Hang, Chu Hang, please answer if you hear me. The parrot's voice was also very happy. It was even faintly excited. In this short period of time, it seemed to have stepped on dog shit and encountered a great blessing. Little scum, please enter the pit. Coordinates: cave demon cave turn. Chu Yang's mood became even happier. Everyone is happy. That's true happiness. Chu Hang, please come out of the pit. Coordinates: flower demon flower turn. You're in the pit, I'm in the flowers. The parrot's reason was very strong. Little scum, treasure found in the cave. Mother divine bird, come quickly. Chu Hang, treasure found in the flowers. Sister-in-law, you're prettier than the flowers. Come quickly. With a snort, Shangguanlan couldn't help but laugh out loud. These two clowns could do anything. Shangguan Mei also couldn't help but laugh. Only the red bird couldn't help but roll its eyes. What was this? Was it so difficult for them to speak human and bird language? Don't show off your wealth. The world is too dangerous. You have to keep a low profile. I suggest you stay in the cave. Don't return to your hometown when you're rich. Show off in the world and make them jealous. I suggest you stay in the flowers. Chu Yang roared, I'm Chu Hang, I'm big. The parrot also roared, I'm a divine bird, I'm big. Enter the pit, we'll beat you up. Come out of the pit, we'll beat you up. Lon, put that stupid bird into the pit. Sister-in-law, pull Chu Hang out of the pit. Suddenly, Shangguanlan found that she had become the referee. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hong Miao immediately made the decision for her. Stupid bird, enter the pit. Let Chu Hang kill you. Well done. Chu Yang praised. Of course. Hong Miao was extremely proud. TSK. The parrot said disdainfully, Chu Hang, that red and ugly bird, are you sure it's called Lon? Admit it one more time, sister-in-law will teach you a lesson. Chu Yang didn't need to look to know that the red bird and the parrot were fighting. He opened his mouth and said, Little bastard, it's not called Lon, but it's called Lon Lan's younger sister. You bullied Lon Lan's younger sister. I won't be able to save you later. A good male bird doesn't fight with a female bird. This divine bird won't lower himself to the level of a woman like you. I don't want to be called petty. The parrot finally gave up. It turned into a colorful light and flew into the pit with a whoosh. Immediately it shouted, "Chu Hang, this divine bird will beat you up later. Waha!" In a flash, the parrot was in front of Chu Yang. Without saying anything, it roared as if it saw injustice. Gang beating. Bang, bang, bang. In the midst of the explosions, one parrot after another appeared out of thin air. In an instant, there were as many as 36 parrots. The parrot was mixed in with them. It was impossible to distinguish between the real and the fake parrots because every parrot looked exactly the same. Clone myself. Chu Yang was shocked. After a while, he realized that the parrot's magical power could clone others. Naturally, it could also clone itself. It was obviously much easier to clone itself than to clone others. In this way, it could clone 36 copies of itself. Chapter 1874. I wonder how's mine? The parrot held its head high, and was immensely proud of itself. Chu Yang muttered to himself, and punched the parrot. Magic power surged out, and a Chu Yang appeared out of thin air. This Chu Yang looked exactly the same as his true self. When Chu Yang punched out, another Chu Yang appeared out of thin air. However, this Chu Yang was much weaker than the first. 2 more Chu Yang punched out, and 2 more Chu Yang appeared. 4 more Chu Yang punched out, and 4 more Chu Yang appeared. In the blink of an eye, it seemed as if countless Chu Yangs had appeared, and submerged the 37 parrots. The parrots didn't even have time to react when they saw the densely packed Chu Yangs surging towards them. Their expressions stiffened, and then they met with tragedy. Bang, bang, bang. Muffled sounds rang out as 36 parrots exploded. The parrot's true self was hit so hard that its feathers flew everywhere, its eyes were swollen, and its wings were broken. It screamed and wailed. Chu Yang stared blankly. The first Chu Yang was like the strongest of the 100 heavenly caves. The second Chu Yang was like the second strongest heavenly cave. Then, the next Chu Yang was like the second strongest heavenly cave. Then, the next heavenly cave was like a weakened heavenly cave. This was already very surprising, but it wasn't just that. The second Chu Yang was like the 99th heavenly cave, and the third Chu Yang was like the 98th heavenly cave. They were like Chu Yang's true self, and could also form Chu Yang to weaken heavenly cave. I've become a demon, and no one can restrain me. Chu Yang clicked his tongue. This magical power was so special that it allowed him to have unlimited clones for a short period of time. This is external magical power. How about I try my internal magical power? He had 2 types of magical power, one internal and one external. What he had just used was external magical power, which was external magical power. Now, he wanted to test out the magical power that was born in his body. He punched out again. Rumble. It was as if there were countless giant beasts stirring at the bottom of the lake. The waves soared to the sky, as if they wanted to reach the 9 heavens. It was unknown how high they rose. The power of this punch was also extremely shocking. Not only did Chu Yang appear out of thin air, but the difference from before was that there were fewer Chu Yang that appeared. It was just that the more Chu Yang was formed, the stronger the Chu Yang became. In the end, although only 100 yes had appeared, the 100th Chu Yang had shockingly reached the life and death realm. This should be the limit of Chu Yang's battle strength. The parrot was still in a state of shock when 100 Chu Yang suddenly burst out again, each more frightening than the last. It immediately screamed, "King, please spare me. I am just a broken bird. I am not worthy of such a supreme treatment like being beaten by a group. Please have some self-respect, King Chu." Bang bang bang. The parrot was still beaten up. Who asked it to shout so late? In the end, Chu Yang had sufficient reason. He was also amazed by himself. But after a while, his mouth was crooked with laughter. "I am indeed a king. No, I am indeed a great sage as strong as the heavens. Waha!" Chu Yang laughed wildly. The parrot was even more resentful. It was like a resentful woman whose resentment formed a river that drowned out time and space. It was so sorrowful that it shook 3 generations. The group beating technique that it had suddenly comprehended was immediately thwarted as soon as it was born. Moreover, it was giving it a taste of its own medicine. Its insect-like group beating technique was pitted against a dragon-like group beating technique. Chu Heng must have a grudge against it. Otherwise, why would he force it to feel inferior? Before it could be proud of itself, Chu Heng gave it a big blow. No matter how big the circle of curses it drew, it could not contain its sorrow. Parrot, let me teach you a song. The lights go out, the music stops. It rains, birds are unhappy, my heart is really hurt. Chu Yang was very happy to hit it when it was down. His laughter was too cheap. Chu Heng, this divine bird is going to fight you to the death. The parrot was truly provoked. But in the end it was still sad. Chu Heng was scum who did not know what sympathy was. Chapter 1875. Why is my voice so cold? I've lost. The lights went out, the music stopped, and I can't stop my tears. My heart is really hurt. Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mei burst out laughing. Ha ha! Hong Niao was also laughing like crazy. I'm deeply honored to be able to make my 2 sisters-in-law smile. The parrot suddenly perked up and flew to Shangguan Lan's side. Sister-in-law, that guy ganged up on me. You have to stand up for me and fight him back. Ha ha! Shangguan Lan laughed so hard that she almost choked. This parrot was really good at fooling around. But suddenly, as if she had been stung by a bee, she quickly retreated and her face turned red. Lan Lan, this kiss is your reward for your husband. Chu Yang was very horny and took the opportunity to bite Shangguan Lan. Ah, the world is degenerating day by day, and morality is degenerating. The parrot sighed. What's wrong with this world? Even sister-in-law is unreliable. The heavens are clear, and my husband is greater than the heavens. This is a principle that will never change. Chu Yang immediately roared, Little bastard, are you trying to go against the way of heaven? How dare you? Chu Yang went to teach the parrot a lesson, and Shangguan Lan couldn't help but laugh. Chu Yang had achieved his goal, so he gave up on the parrot and went to please Shangguan Lan. Whether it was Chu Yang or Shangguan Lan, neither of them had much desire for points. This time, the 6 Academies Alliance competition was more like a date for them. Both of them cherished such a period of time very much, although Chu Yang had some worries in his heart. After this, the Ice Kun returned and brought back the news that Chu Yang was most eager to know. But his tone was not heavy, nor was it urgent. Kun, how was this trip? Not bad, the original scenery is still there, and it hasn't changed at all. Chu Yang was stunned. This meant that the barren village was safe and sound. He felt a little relieved. Things didn't seem to be as serious as he thought. Then why did I hear that the scenery has been completely destroyed by uncultured people? This is actually very simple. The Ice Kun replied, It's only because the people who went there to enjoy the scenery left and went to other places to enjoy the scenery. The scenery there was ruined by someone, and it was caused by false rumors. Chu Yang naturally understood. Big Brother had been to the deserted village before, but he did not run into any danger there. It was only after he left that something happened. How many people are looking at the scenery? At this point, he was very concerned and anxious. Big Brother had entered the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness again. He should not be alone. Master's Big Brother, Second Brother, Junior Brother Silver Wolf, and Little Guai. Bing Kun didn't use Chu Yang's method to answer. Instead, he directly explained the reason. Master, your junior brother, the Silver Wolf, is a descendant of the Star Lord. He has a deep feud with the Star Academy Master. Master's disciple, Wang Bushang, gave the 7th Neil to the Silver Wolf. Hearing this, Chu Yang completely understood why the Ice Kuan knew so much and even knew that he had passed the seventh Neil to others. He finally understood why his big brother and the others had been captured. It had something to do with the Silver Wolf and the Star Academy. Based on the current situation, this matter definitely had something to do with the Star Academy, and the enemy behind the scenes should also be from the Star Academy. Of course, this could not be ruled out. This matter had nothing to do with the Star Academy at all. The Star Academy was just a cover used by the enemy to deceive them. After Chu Yang obtained sufficient information from the Ice Kuan, he pondered for an entire night. At noon the next day, he said to Shangguan Lan, "Lan, it seems like we have to separate again this time." He did not explain the reason. Shangguan Lan was slightly stunned. She immediately frowned and said seriously, "Brother Yang, it's too late." When Chu Yang heard this, he immediately sensed a few shocking auras slowly walking towards him. These people's footsteps were very steady, and they were not in a hurry. It could be said that each step was like a carriage. When they realized that Chu Yang had discovered them, they did not panic. They only sneered and did not hide their killing intent. What will come in the end. Chapter 1876. The saint-level holy embryo belonged to the holy disciples. Any holy disciple of the 6 great academies would never allow the holy embryo to fall into the hands of Chu Yang. For example, a prince would never allow the throne to fall into the hands of others, let alone allow the throne to be stolen by a beggar like Chu Yang. That was right. To the holy disciples of the 6 great academies, Chu Yang was at best a beggar. However, this beggar seemed to be favored by the heavens, and the words ordained by the heavens had already hit this beggar. That was the general situation. The holy embryo was very important, but so was their reputation. For some people, it was even more important than their lives. In the end, if the holy embryo was taken by Chu Yang, where would the holy disciples of the 6 great academies put their faces? This was absolutely not allowed. 6 people came. These 6 people were not necessarily sent by the holy disciples of the 6 great academies, but this was the most likely case. At present, the people who were most eager to kill Chu Yang were definitely the holy disciples of the 6 great academies. Everyone knew this. Since everyone knew this, why did those who wanted to kill Chu Yang need to do it themselves? Wouldn't it be better to let the holy disciples do it and watch the show from the side? The emperor was not anxious, but the eunuchs were. If the holy disciples were the emperor, they were not necessarily the eunuchs around the emperor. Why should they be anxious? Therefore, Chu Yang's first judgment was that these 6 people were mostly sent by the holy disciples of the 6 great academies. Master, the surrounding area has been cleared. There are no saints or inspection teams. After hearing Bing Kuan's voice transmission, Chu Yang was even more certain of his judgment. As for the inspection teams, there was no need to think about them. They could not wait to eat Chu Yang alive. Even if they knew, they would definitely not appear. Among these 6 people, 3 are in the death spirit realm and 3 are in the life realm. When Chu Yang heard Bing Kuan's voice transmission again, his eyes couldn't help but narrow. Lan is also included. Shangguan Lan's cultivation was in the life realm. Previously in the Sky Academy, in order to deter Chen Burang, she had revealed her cultivation. Wasn't it enough for 3 people in the life realm to fight against 1 in the life realm? 3 undead spirit realm experts were more than enough to deal with him. Anyone would think so. Chu Yang also thought so. This was troublesome. No, it would be more accurate to say that it was a headache that could kill him. The limit of his current battle prowess should be the undead spirit realm. Dealing with 1 of them was already his limit, and dealing with 3 of them would cause him a headache. Can Lan deal with 3 life realm experts at the same time? This was an even more terrible problem. It was still fine if Shangguan Lan could deal with 3 life realm experts at the same time, But if she couldn't, then it would be even worse. Do I really have to trigger the lightning tribulation this time? The lightning punishment was Chu Yang's last resort. At his current condition, he could trigger 3 lightning punishments at most. When he was in the God world, including his body that had reached the God realm, among his 100 heavenly paradises, only 2 of them had transformed into godheads. He was at 3rd level of incipient God realm, which corresponded to the transcendence realm in the heavenly spirit world. However, this was his trump card. If he used it too early, it would be too disadvantageous for him. After all, he still had too many things to do. If Bing Kun attacked, of course he could kill them. However, he didn't want to expose this trump card. Bing Kun was his last resort, and it was related to his life. The 2 sides had not met yet, but to a certain extent, Chu Yang had already lost. He couldn't lose more. Even if he used his trump card and survived this calamity, he was completely defeated in terms of strategy. Chapter 1877. Facing Chu Yang, they were like 6 farmers facing a venomous snake. They were farmers with no experience in catching snake. Chu Yang was a venomous snake with an undefeatable venom. The farmers were confident that they could kill this venomous snake and bring it back to make medicinal wine. However, they also knew that 1 or more of them would be bitten and killed by the venomous snake. You should know that you are absolutely disgusting. Am I right? The first to speak was a short and vigorous young man. He seemed to be responding to the saying, "Condensed is the essence." His entire body was flawless, without the slightest flaw. The connection and fusion of his body, his magic power, and his soul were perfect to the extreme as well, forming the tightest defense that couldn't be penetrated by water and couldn't be penetrated by needles. It was even more like an impregnable fortress that couldn't be breached by an army of millions. Chu Yang could even see that his martial arts moves were as smooth as flowing water. He was extremely skilled. However, this short and vigorous young man's emotions were full of flaws. He was full of anger and disgust. Looking at Chu Yang, it was as if he had met his nemesis. The murderous intent in his heart was not concealed at all. It poured out like a tsunami from the bottom of his heart. Chu Yang didn't have the slightest good impression of such a person. He smiled and spat out 2 words, "Name." "Humph." The short and vigorous youth couldn't help but coldly snort, "Wild dog, listen up, 3rd Jian." When the 2 words, "wild dog," entered his ears, Chu Yang could not help but retort, "Jian-san, many people will like your short stature. At least your short stature will comfort those who are not satisfied with their height. Because you will let them know that they are not the worst." Chu Yang was indeed a venomous snake. He attacked Jian-san directly with his venomous tongue. Not all short people would care about their height. Unfortunately, Jian-san cared a lot about his height. Suddenly, he turned into an evil ghost. He stared at Chu Yang with a sinister look in his eyes. He was about to say something vicious, but he forced himself to hold back. He suddenly changed the topic and said, "Imagine, in the middle of winter, you were sleeping with a woman in your bed. Suddenly, someone lifted the blanket and dragged you out. How would you feel?" It was abrupt, but I am not here to vent my anger. I am here to solve the problem. Chu Yang thought for a moment. That would be a terrible thing. I would curse and maybe even kill. What if, not only did you not dare to curse, you did not dare to kill? You could only kneel there and tremble? Jian-san spoke again. How would you feel then? Is that so? Chu Yang's pupils shrank slightly. He understood why Jian-san was standing in front of him. Jian-san was also very reluctant. "May I know who the thing that dragged you out of the warm bed is?" "Ha ha!" Jian-san laughed weirdly. "Wild dog, you want to know? But aren't you afraid that you will be scared out of your wits?" "Scared out of my wits? That's my business. It has nothing to do with you. Chu Yang was not happy. However, Jian San's attitude showed that he was here to solve the problem, not to vent his anger. Jian San suppressed his anger, and so did Chu Yang. Okay, I will satisfy you. Jian San laughed even more mockingly. Wild Dog, listen carefully. Blood God, Dragon God, Huatianying, Chen Dingkuan, Ma Longting, Yang Santai. Is that enough? He sneered. Wild Dog, I can tell you clearly that none of the holy disciples of the 6 great academies will tolerate you. At this moment, the eyes of the 5 people beside him were filled with coldness. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.